The ASTROLAB.
Time to end this suffering. I need a minute to myself. So I drift away. You will never get to me. What can't be done, I'll do myself. So I.
Hottest fucking thing a guy can do is make a little noise. Okay, let out a little.
Hold on, clear it out.
The Warthog. I love him.
We're gonna win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're gonna win more.
Oh my goodness. Everything is frickin' foobar today. We had the entire Texas sky land on specifically our house. And I'm hoping you guys can actually hear me. I guess I should do a little sound check here first. Because, middle of the, not the pre-show. This time we got through the pre-show, middle of the intro. I think that's the first time we've ever gone down the middle of the intro. Okay, thank you, Ryan Isaac. Appreciate you. Middle of the intro, kablamo! Just absolutely our whole ceiling caved in, everything turned off, and there is a remarkable daisy chain of things that I have to set up here to make all of this work together.
Welcome to the Gulag.
And
if you survive, you
Dave!
earn freedom.
Hello! Mr. Dave Johnson.
You know, Dave Johnson is the gayest person to ever walk this green earth.
So true, Mr. President. Mr. Dave Johnson with the 10 subs. Congratulations to Patchy the Kid, Texas Squirrel, Blue Skittle, Panos, Swag, Stormy. That's appropriate. Lucky Jig, Maliez, String of Letters, and Tuxes. Thank you. Very much appreciate you, Mr. Gave Johnson. Let's give an Erica to the new members.
Auf der einen blüht ein kleines Blümelein und das heißt Erika.
Yes, the ceiling didn't actually cave in. I guess, yeah, with our luck lately, people might actually believe that's true. No, the ceiling didn't actually cave in. It was a massive clap of thunder. Apparently, we have there's only one location where a thunderstorm is happening in the country right now, and it is right up there, immediately above our house. So, yeah, knocked everything out. I had to go and I had to restart the router. Then I had to restart the extender. Had to troubleshoot those through the app to get them up and running again. Had to get the camera back on. Had to get the lights reset to the right colors. Had to get the camera reconnected and re-centered. It's a little off, I can tell now, whatever. And then get the computer on. And then get all the scenes and stuff reconnected. It's a whole ordeal. If we do a full reset, there's a lot of stuff that has to get reset. And when we do one of these sudden, unexpected resets, well, I was hustling. So apologies for the long delay, but we're back. This is actually probably this is the Lord smiting me with his wrath because I made you guys wait too long by going and taking a little nap this afternoon that turned into much more than a little nap. It was supposed to be a quick little 45 minutes and just kind of catch things up a little bit and then get myself a little, just kind of get the energy back up again. And Amy came in and woke me up almost 3 hours later. And she's like, you got to tell me when you're taking a nap because I don't know if my alarm didn't go off or what, but so I would have been live 2 hours ago, and I maybe would have been halfway through the show when everything went down. But yeah, so we are live, and
Here comes the money.
Hey-o!
Here we go.
Alpha Male Alert!
Here comes the money. Money, money, money,
Dollar, 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 dollar.
Ching, ching, bling, bling, cut the chatter. You ain't talking money, then you're talking no matter.
Dang, it was just weather. Was hoping to blame the Mac.
Thank you, Creek Money. No, the Mac has been great. It was a little hot when I just reached back there and turned it back on again. So I might need to do a full shutdown for a little bit here. It actually doesn't get hot very often, so I wonder why it's so hot. But it has been on for, I don't know, a month, 3 weeks, something like that. Yeah, 45 for a nap. 45 minutes is the danger zone. Yeah, 20 minutes max. Yeah, I kind of knew better when I lay down. I was like, all right, I need to go like 25, 30 minutes. That's kind of the magic spot for me. And I was like, I think I can make it work. I can do 45. I'll make 45 work. Nope, definitely not. No idea what it was, but so late show tonight. And I'll be completely honest. There was a few things here that I was planning on going through and ascertaining whether or not they were show worthy. I think they are. But I haven't actually gone through them, so we're just going to go through them fresh and clean here because that was the time that I lost myself. Let me get my tabs all reloaded here because all of a sudden all the tabs, yeah, there's one that's not reloading. Okay, it worked. Make sure that you guys, there was not a lab yesterday. I told you guys ahead of time. If you listened to the last couple episodes last week, you would have known that I joined Mr. Jason Miranchuk for the final. The ultimate, the conclusive Friend or Fed over on the Miranchuk Now channel. And it was Jay Dyer, Friend or Fed, featuring the man himself. Jay Dyer was there. And big shout out to Jay. He was, he actually had, I'm talking out of school just a little bit here, but he had actually been like, I'm really tired, not feeling very well. Is there any way we can kick this back a couple of days? And Jason was like, well, I actually just publicized it again in anticipation of it here shortly. And so, no. So he said, would you just come on for like 30 minutes? And Jay, to his credit, stuck it out for an hour and a half. So some people, they might say, oh, Jay left early. No, Jay left late. He stayed there longer than he needed to his great and tremendous credit. I did tell Jason, you kind of stacked the panel here because Jay Dyer, Friend or Fed, featuring Jay Dyer, Matt Erickson, and Posh Redneck. Yeah, that's that conclusion was determined at the very beginning. Definitely a friend, a great friend. So, yeah, make sure you guys go listen to that. Then it turned into another 2.5 hours of Jason and Posh getting increasingly drunker and drunker and voice mogging me as we talked geopolitics. And so that was great. It was terrible. Both of them are sitting there drinking alcohol and smoking cigarettes in front of me. And I'm like, I got a nicotine pouch. How about a nicotine pouch? Yeah, let's do a nicotine pouch. And then I ran out of drinks. I'd even brought myself like extra drinks to just kind of tide myself over, and I ran out of those. And I'm like, kind of gauging. Do I just go down and just go like smoke a cigarette and grab something else to drink and then come back up again? Because like these guys are killing me here. But yeah, it ended up being a fantastic conversation. Yeah, Posh is awesome. If that was your guys' first introduction to Posh, Posh is a treasure. I first encountered him through Jim Bob. He used to hop on and do like panel discussions with Jim Bob, and he is an Orthodox reader in Serbia. He is Cradle Orthodox. He is a reader at his local parish. So imagine that voice chanting. Oh, yes. That's if you guys haven't been to an Orthodox liturgy, just go. Just go. Come and see, just go. Yeah. But yeah, so interesting thing with Posh, everyone's always like the first thing everyone says, "Oh, his voice." And it is his real voice. That is his real natural voice. He grew up learning to speak English by listening to Christopher Lee. So he just kind of naturally picked up Christopher Lee's affect, and he speaks. So he's not a native English speaker, and is not British. He is native-born Serbian. Learned English in, I don't know, like grade school or something like that. So he's got the Saruman accent. Yeah. So he is a treasure. It was a great fun chatting with him. So make sure you guys go watch that. I believe Jason has put the video behind the membership paywall over on his channel. So if you just go to Mirror and check now, it's only $2 a month. If you want to be a member there, and you can go watch that. And then what else was I gonna say? I had something else all queued up. I don't usually make notes for myself. I just have my thoughts ready to go when the stream starts, and then everything fell apart in the middle of it. So it was go see that show, and yeah, I don't know what it was. Go join the Kingpill Discord. How about that? Go download the EWBSX app. And thank you again to Creek Money for the alpha male tip. Thank you for being a patriot. Let's give you one of these.
What the fuck is a kilometer?
One of these.
The only acceptable political theory is complete undying loyalty to Donald Trump.
And one of these.
Let's fucking go. Get your spectral sock out, nerds. It's gonna get good.
Jumpa, there is the part 2 of the Sudawave is yet to be made. That was he made part 1. Part 2 is yet to be made. Likely this Saturday. That will be the next Sudawave. A Princess Bride Sudawave. That would be really funny. That's one of those on my short list. I've put together like a short list of movies that I hope to see on a soon to come Sudawave, and Princess Bride is one of them. That's it just iconic. And there's so much you could do with it. I want to see the great mind of the great Suda take that on. That would be because of Rob Reiner, of course. Yeah, Stand By Me would be another one along the same lines there. Or he could do When Harry Met Sally. There's a lot of really good ones to choose from. The man definitely produced some gems early in life. He was all about the coal later on, but he definitely produced some gems early in life. Shout out to Modest Contemplations and Arthurian Candidate. Thank you guys for upping your subscriptions on Kick. If you guys would like to support the show on a kind of a mindless, regular basis and get access to all the cool emotes in the chat, then you could go become a Kick subscriber. It's $5 a month, and you can know that of that $5, 95% of it goes straight to yours truly, versus the typical 5% or 30% that YouTube takes. The 5% goes straight to yours truly. So we're currently at or 95% goes to yours truly. We're currently at 192 subs on the channel, which is funny. We've got 477 followers on the channel, 192 subs, and 63 live viewers right now at the moment here late on Tuesday night, 10:30 p.m. local time. It's funny. This is the same thing that was the case with the YouTube channel. I had relative to my subscriber, follower, and just total size of the channel, the number of subscribers and the amount of income and the number of engaged live viewers was crazy. You guys are once somebody enters the ASTROLAB orbit. Oh, for fuck's sake! Come on, man. Seriously? It still says it's live on my end. Oh. Well, we're going to sit here and wait to see if it reconnects. And not much else that I can do here at the moment, because Streamlabs still says that we're live. And there, now it froze on my end. Amy says, make sure I leave all the cussing and yelling in the audio version. Okay, am I back up? I think it's back. Let me say back. It should be. It's reloaded on my end. So, but now, oh, wait a second. I see the chat that's coming through is from a while ago. Okay, there we go. Refreshed. There. Hold on. Refresh again. Okay. All right. Are you guys actually hearing me right now? I just want to make sure it isn't like jumping way back and getting stuck way behind or something like that. Now it's on track? Okay, you hear me loud and clear? All right. All right, perfect. Maybe you guys did get to see me raging. Oh, good. Well, who knows? Who knows if this is just going to keep happening? I'm just going to keep powering through. Unless the power just totally shuts down completely, I am just pedal to the metal. I'm just going to plow through. So you guys can keep coming back in as long as you want. And if you have to dip out and hit the replay gang later on, so be it. So be it. Such is the life of the Labian. You guys are loyal. You're dutiful. You always stick around through thick and through thin. And so I appreciate all of you. Let's get this party started. No more dilly-dallying. What do we got? How we lost a generation to DEI. That's the thing that I hope that we're going to get to. I put that at the back end of the show. We had an article talking about the effects of DEI in young white men. And then Jeremy Carl, the great Jeremy Carl, a nominated member of the Trump administration, though not actually confirmed yet because of the traitors in Congress. We need to get him. We need to get him actually confirmed. But the great Jeremy Carl wrote a response. So we're going to go through that. I got some fun little odds and ends here kind of at the beginning. We're going to talk about Home Alone as a Christmas movie. And then I've got some, Heritage America stuff. And then, what was the other thing? Trump's, what was it? What did I say here? Something about Trump's immigration wins. Oh, Trump's alternative to the FBI. Yeah. So we're going to talk about Trump's alternative to the FBI as well as some of his immigration wins. So I know I've heard that the timeline is just in absolute shambles right now. I haven't spent a whole lot of time. Following it, frankly. I mean, for the last week, obviously, I was a little out of it with everything going on with my dog. And then for the last few days, I've been kind of in a similar mode. You know, I'm struggling to get back into the timeline. I dip in there every once in a while, but as soon as I see enough enough faggotry that I'm like, all right, I grabbed a couple of bookmarks. I'm going to go do something else with my time. I've got a million Tom Luongo hours to catch up on, and a couple other really good interviews that dropped while I was indisposed. So yes, thank you to Mr. Sue's mom for the Home Alone clips. We get to those in just a sec, but. So obviously there's been there was the Brown University assassination, there was the Bondi Beach shooting, there was the Rob Reiner death, and Trump tweeted something, and now it's all over because Trump offended people. Like we've never played this game before. All this stuff, this is slop. That is the slop. You want to talk like the stuff that we're going to talk about today, especially like even these early things, the things about like Home Alone and some Home Alone news. There's some news related to it. Some of this other stuff, like this is the actual news. I'm going to talk about the actual news. Everyone else is just yelling about slop. Trump's tweet about Rob Reiner and how it makes me feel, and how grumpy I am, and how much someone else reacting to it, and that was all stupid and gay, and all that stuff. That is the slop. I'm planting my flag now. You know, for a while I was kind of like, yeah, you know what? I traffic in slop, and I'm proud of it. Now, no, not anymore. Now we're going to talk about the actual news. We're going to talk about stuff that is actually productive and pertinent and relevant to you. What Trump tweeted and how the anonymous right-wing racist suddenly wants to channel the like never Trump squish conservatives. That is slop. That is slop culture. So, I'm going to give you guys something really important to consider. Because there is a little discussed, in the midst of all of this slop, there is a little discussed subject that deserves some attention. This is a significant issue. And this is a message straight from the cyberbully. Despite the way, he says, despite the way many of my miniature companions feel, the elf problem. We need to talk about the EP, the elf problem. However, they're not all bad. Some of them, most of them, they are mostly peaceful.
Fellas, is it winter yet? Officially? I don't know. I don't know how the calendar works there inside the ice wall, but I know it's starting to get cold. So to warm you up, to warm your spirit, of course I have some Christmas lore. We'll go ahead and start with this. Did you know that 1/3 of Santa's elves, many eons ago, fell to the brain rot? They were cast out of Santa's legion of good elves. It's right. Now they're now in the service of Dr. Brainrot.
All my homies hate Dr. Brainrot.
Their minds have been darkened to where they don't even know anymore that they're brain rotted. Now, you didn't hear it from me, wink wink. Or shall I say dink dink? Huh? Daryl's Uncle Dinkle? You think I forgot about that guy? And his other uncle, Dunkle?
Dinkle and Dunkle are characters.
Why do I bring them up? Well, it's because part 2 of this lore is that the gnomes themselves are genetically impervious to the brain rot. They're just too low IQ. By choice, mind you. It's a conscious choice to retard max. And we like that here at EWBSX, and you should be retard maxing. You know, what do I mean by this? If you're finding yourself overwhelmed and stressed during this holiday season, it means you're overthinking it, all right? So just relax and slip into the zone, and we got you covered for that, all right? So let's go ahead and spin some more tunes, get back to the music. It's EWBSX, the cyberbully.
Deport all elves back to the North Pole, so says Daryl. So yes. If you want more gnome-generated content for you, if you're looking for a place to retard max, EWBSX, come join the Cyberbully Cinematic Universe over at EWBSX. Download the app, free on the app stores, and stay tuned for big things in the works. We've always got big things in the works, but there's even bigger things coming soon. You may see EWBSX on let's just say platforms you may not expect. So make sure you follow along with that. Go over to the App Store, download it, go to ewbsx.com, and tune in every day for some white pills. Speaking of white pills, Philip Rivers. I know some of you guys may not sports ball, so you may not know the story of Philip Rivers. Philip Rivers is an American patriot. He is tremendous. Longtime NFL quarterback. The man has 10 children. That's right, 10 children. The man does not say swears. He is a good Christian boy. He is a massive crap talker, but he does not swear. He is notorious for talking relentless smack on the field and getting under other people's skin. But he does not do swears. He makes babies, he doesn't swear, and he loses football games in really heartbreaking fashion to no fault of his own. The story of his entire career. He's been out of the league for 5 years. He is 44 years old. But the Colts quarterback, the Colts, who were one of the best teams in the league, their quarterback tore his Achilles and is out for the rest of the season. And this is the absolute state of the quarterback market in the NFL, that it made more sense for them to lure Philip Rivers out of retirement after 5 years. At the end of this season, he was going to be eligible for the Hall of Fame. His Hall of Fame eligibility just reset. The clock for it. It just reset for another 5 years. They brought him out for this game against the Seahawks. Unfortunately, I had to root for Philip Rivers' failure. But you know, the story just went perfectly. The old man, he can barely get the ball 20 yards down the field. But his processor is second to none. You could see his brain just whirring out there on the field. You know, three-step drop, hit the back foot, ball is out. Three-step drop, hit the back foot, ball is out. Walking up to the line, making changements, adjustments, identifying the defensive structure. He is brain first at this point. And he led on the road. He led the Colts on a 2-minute drive down to score or to kick a field goal, improbably, with less than a minute left in the game. And then lost because his defense couldn't get a stop, and the Seahawks kicked a game-winning field goal as time expired. The story of Philip Rivers' career. It was just beautifully poetic. Then afterwards, this is what he had to say. He's a high school football coach. That's like his job. He coaches football and works with like kids' charities and stuff like that. They pulled him back in to start this game, and this was during the post-game interview.
I think maybe it will, I don't know, inspire or teach, to not to run or be scared of what may or may not happen, Hopefully, certainly I think of my sons and those ball players, that I'm in charge of at the school, that they'll say, like, crap, coach wasn't scared. You know what I mean? It's like, shoot, sometimes there is doubt, and it's real. And again, you can the guaranteed safe bet is to go home or to not go for it, and the other one is shoot. Let's see what happens, And so, I hope that in that sense that it can be a positive to some young boys, or young people. It doesn't have to be boys, but I think maybe
shoot. Let's see what happens. So true. Such great life advice. The only way you lose is by not trying something. Don't be scared. Just shoot. Let's see what happens. This is, I didn't know he had an accent. Yeah, he is just a corn-fed good old boy. Yeah, he's like Job. Yeah. Yeah. It was funny. We were watching the game, and Amy saw him out there in uniform, and she said, he looks like some guy dressed up like Philip Rivers. Please don't tell me this fucking thing just went down again. Please, it just stopped on my screen. I swear to God. Please tell me this did not just go down again. Nobody's replying. Come on! Oh. It's still up on my end. Am I back yet? The screen updated. Keep blaming the victims some more. Okay, so now it is, now we got to refresh, get it back active. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now it should be, I think we're live again. Okay, might have to close and reset the app again. All right. So, yeah, the stream just got riversed. Let me know when you guys are hearing this right now. Let me know when you hear that, and then I'll know that we are fully back and good to go, and we'll keep going. Back. Okay. All right. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, just he's a good old boy, good old country boy. So, here is his high school football team going nuts when he threw his first touchdown pass in the NFL in over 1,800 days. This is what it looks like when your coach says have no fear and then practices what he preaches by coming back to play at 44 years old. If you guys did not play sports growing up, you missed out on a core American boy memory. There's the non-Americans that just play sports. Obviously, they play like they're fake made-up sports. But if you didn't play baseball or football or one of these good old American sports when you were growing up, you didn't get to experience this, then you may not be able to relate to these guys here. But this is frickin' cool. All just gathered around a TV at like some restaurant or something, watching their 44-year-old coach play. Oh yeah, that was the last thing that I was saying, is that while we were watching the game, Amy saw Phillip Rivers walking around in his uniform, and she goes, "He looks like somebody dressed up as Phillip Rivers for Halloween." Yeah, definitely. Justine!
I wish I was up on your end. We never get crashes when I let my true feelings be known, chat. You're welcome. We'll keep going. Alright. The stream, all over me.
No!
Together, we can all stream on me and keep it going all night long. I will take the team.
Justine? You know what? Maybe it'll work. The stream has never crashed when Justine is horny posting in the tip jar. So you keep horny posting in the tip jar. The stream stays up. Just call it a win for everyone. All right. Home Alone as a Christian movie.
This post that also went viral about how Home Alone is a Christian movie. This is nuts. I can't believe I've never noticed this before. It's the scene where Kevin's walking into the church, right? And so I'm going to read this. He says, "Watch this scene very carefully where Kevin is drawn into the beauty and warmth of the church. As he walks inside to O Holy Night, he hears the words, 'Fall on your knees, oh hear the angel voices.'" Now, next screenshot. I'm setting the mood.
Yeah, I like it.
A sanctuary candle passes across the foreground, indicating that Christ is present inside the church. Then next screenshot, Kevin has an encounter with a Christ figure. Now, if you think this is crazy, just stick with me for a second. Kevin has an encounter with a Christ figure, Old Man Marley. Now, this isn't in the post, but I'll just point this out. When you first meet Old Man Marley in the movie, what's he doing? He's salting the earth. Now, so check this out. So Old Man Marley, Christ figure, Kevin makes a confession to him, then shakes his hand, and we see a bandage on Marley's hand. Now, check this out, bro.
Now, I'd seen the thing before about Old Man Marley's hand and the bandage here that he's about to explain. I'd seen that, but that he was salting the earth, and then Kevin makes a confession. Some of this stuff, there's more to this.
Check this out. It's never explained in the movie why his hand is wounded. But earlier in the movie, we see, drumroll, go to that next one, Whoa. His hand is pierced all the way through. So top there, blood, go back to the other one, bottom, blood. His hand is pierced all the way through, like the nails driven through Christ's hands on the cross. At the end of the movie, Kevin cannot save himself from the burglars, and so Marley appears again to rescue him. Home Alone is a Christian movie.
Wow.
He had this post.
Okay, now that's part one, but hold on a second here. I'm not sure how to interpret this. Agitprop Master says in the chat, Pseudowave Xmas movie list lineup, Home Alone, Batman Returns, Die Hard, Love Actually, and LA Confidential. Are we getting a little peek at the future here? I can't imagine you're putting all of those into one. Is this just are you just providing your official list of Christmas movies? Or are we breaking news about future Pseudowaves? Because if you try to put all 5 of those into one, we're going to be here for 10 hours. I'm down for it. I'm happy to spend a day during the Christmas season watching 10 hours worth of Pseudowaves. I'll be here. But I kind of have a feeling it would take you a while to make that. A Pseudathon! Yes! Then here's part 2.
Week we did the Home Alone as a Christian movie. That was super stupid viral. So then we have all these podcast listeners that start like sleuthing this thing. Dude, I learned some stuff this week that makes it even better. We have a podcast listener who works in Hollywood. This is gonna blow your mind. This guy sends me this and he's like, oh yeah, dude, the 2 guys that wrote Home Alone, devout Christians, devout Catholics. Then he sends me the original script of Home Alone.
No way.
I'm looking at it right now. Okay. I'm going to do a brief reading of what was supposed to happen in the original script of Home Alone.
Whoa.
When Kevin is in the church with Old Man Marley. This is going to blow your mind.
Okay.
Marley, I was baptized in this church. Kevin looks up. Then Marley says, I got married in this church. My boys got married in this church. I said goodbye to my wife in this church. Then Kevin, after a long pause, says, you got divorced in a church? It's supposed to be funny, right? So then Marley laughs, Kevin smiles, and Marley says, I don't laugh too much anymore, but you got me. Then Marley says, what I meant was that the services for my wife when she died were here. The script says, Kevin feels terrible. Marley says, it won't be too long before they have my services here. Kevin, you shouldn't say that. Marley, I'm an old man. I've had a lot of living. I'd like to be with my wife again. Kevin, is that possible? Marley, I believe it. Up in the kingdom, not here. Kevin says, oh, Marley, this time with my wife for eternity. Long pause. Marley says, so you've been a good boy this year? Kevin looks up at Marley. After a long beat, he shakes his head. No. Marley says, maybe you ought to tell him. Who? Kevin says. Marley shifts his eyes up to the ceiling. Him. Should I bother him on Christmas? Marley. He's open all year round. Marley. He'll listen. You're a good soul. And you tell him about the trouble you had with your folks. Kevin is startled that Marley knows. Stick with me for just a second here. Kevin, you know about them? Marley, just a guess. You get on your knee and you ask him to fix things for your folks. And you say please and you say thank you for all the other things that he's done for you. And then you go on home where you belong. And then it says Kevin kneels and he prays. And then he finishes and he looks back at Marley and Kevin says, how long does it usually take for things like this to work? Marley says, give him till morning. Kevin says, okay. And then listen, the last thing it says is Marley holds out his hand. So we learned earlier in the movie, it shows his hands are pierced all the way through. Bro, in the last scene of the movie, when Marley has just finished saving Kevin and you see him reunited with his prodigal son, look at this. Throw that up. His hand is healed. So, sort of a symbolic, a completion of the redemptive work of Christ. So there you go.
That's
Part
amazing,
2,
man.
Home Alone.
That's good.
A Christian movie. So
what I had not known is that the two creators of it were devout Catholics, which is interesting because, as my wife points out in the chat there, Kevin does the Orthodox sign of the cross in the first movie, and I can confirm she showed it to me, and it's yes he does the Orthodox sign of the cross. So I don't know if it was probably just, he's making the sign of the cross and he just does it backwards or something. If he has Catholic guys who are talking with him about it or whatever. But if I don't know how it is for a Catholic person. If you see someone make the Orthodox sign of the cross out in public, I don't know if it stands out to you, but I know that as an Orthodox person, when I see someone make the Orthodox sign of the cross, it trips immediately. There's a couple different sports figures and stuff who do it, like after they score goals or hit home runs or whatever. They make the Orthodox sign of the cross, and I catch it immediately, even if I'm not paying attention. But I don't know if it's the same for Catholics. On the Home Alone subject, shout out to Mama Sue for providing those clips for us. Thank you, Mr. Sue, for passing them on. On the subject of Home Alone, the iconic Home Alone house will be restored to the way that it looked on screen. You may remember that this was a thing that went around on social media a few months ago, I suppose. And someone went and bought the house. Some places are picture perfect or motion picture perfect, and it seems they ought to stay that way. This is from the New York Post. The iconic Chicagoland home featured in the still buzzy 1990 Home Alone movie will undergo a massive renovation, one that will bring it back to how it looked on screen, according to NBC Chicago. Our vision is to bring back the warmth and just the love from the movie, project manager Scott Price told the outlet. The renovation is being bankrolled by the dwelling's current and unnamed owner, who purchased the property for $5.5 million in January of this year. There were so many great colors, and it just made you feel like family and like home, and we want to bring that magic back, he added. However, specific details of the renovation timeline are unclear. In 2021, the home, while under previous ownership, was transformed into a movie-themed rental on Airbnb. One guest only got the chance that year to spend the night inside, which was a spitting image of the film set. There's a bedroom inside the Airbnb set. The home stands in Winnetka, an affluent suburb of the Winnie City, and remains one of the most famous homes in film history. So much so that older marketing images of its interior, showing no trace of the fictional McAllister family's over-the-top design, sparked outrage from fans of the flick. A moment of silence for what was once a house and is now a sterile doctor's office, said one critic. Another said, I would have paid 10x more for that house if it was kept original. Just like a classic car, it's worth more. Now this house just looks like every other house. And the house is still so famous that it attracts fans who remain faithful to the movie. One of them, Natalie Cole, visited from Ohio, telling the outlet, I saw on the website it was really kind of a gray house and lost the spirit and magic. She added, I'm thrilled the new owners have decided to do that. In terms of recent history, this wouldn't be the first time the property paid homage to its silver screen aesthetic. In 2021, during the holiday season promotion, Airbnb outfitted it in a true-to-the-film fashion for a renter to spend the night. But that was during previous ownership. In mid-2024, the 9,126 square foot spread listed for sale, asking $5.25 million. So this is supposed to be like the middle class house for a family in their early 30s, and it was 9,100 square feet. It found a buyer, the present owners, in a week. The film's main star, Macaulay Culkin, considered buying it just for giggles, he said, in 2024 at a screening of the movie. Did the frickin' stream just go down again? I swear to God. Why? Why? Please tell me. Why does this have to happen? All right, well. Drum Drums, fingers on desk. Nothing we can do but just wait, I suppose. I can't imagine that this is a consequence of the storm. I don't know how the storm would be not affecting my internet connection at all, unless it's doing something subtle in the background. We're back. Ish. Back. Okay. So if it's back and delayed, just refresh. I guess if you're delayed, you can't hear me saying that. Oh yeah, let's do this.
The white man is back, baby! The white man is back!
Woo! We're back. Okay, are we live? Are we live? Are you guys actually caught up? Because if it's going back to before it crashed, I don't know if it's gonna actually pick it up and keep going. So I just want to make sure that we are live before continuing. Waiting for the chat. Do. Live, delayed. Live, give us a reference point. Just say live when you guys get to this point. Live. Okay, perfect. All right. So, the film's main star, Macaulay Culkin, considered buying the house just for giggles, he said in 2024 at a screening of the movie. Ultimately, it officially traded hands early this year for that $5.5 million sum, $250,000 above the list price, after a 7-month contract. The reason for the wait? The sellers wanted one final Christmas inside. And now it will always be Christmas there thanks to the impending work. We love this movie. It was a really important movie in our childhood, and that's true for the family that owns the house, too. So shout out to whoever the Patriots are who bought this home. Ugh. Got a hair in my mouth. Who bought this home and are going to be restoring it. Excellent to see. Okay. Look at this. 1993, captured in early HD format. Oh, good grief. There's people hitting the live who are... Okay, the people who are hitting the live now, if you just hit the live now, refresh the app. You're a couple minutes behind. Okay. 1993, captured in early HD format, is like a time machine. This is the most crisp video I've seen from this era. This is from Brian Romelli, who is an absolute treasure trove for these sorts of things. Go follow him on Twitter. Brian Romelli, that's spelled Roemmele. In 2002, D Theater launched in the US. The dealers needed a demo tape of HD footage. JVC reused some HD video that had been shot as a demo for the Japanese HD market back in 1993. This footage would have most likely been originally used for a high-vision Muse demo, an HD broadcast tape and laserdisc format. You can determine that the year is 1993 by the adverts in Times Square. The Radio 501 CD that's advertised on a billboard came out in 1993, and Paper Moon is playing at the Marquee Theater. For those wondering what HD video camera tech existed in 1993, there are a few options, but it's likely that this footage was shot with an HDVS camera, perhaps a Sony HDC 500 attached to an HDV10 portable recorder, which recorded on Uni-Hi 3/4-inch tape. If that means anything to you, then I'm very happy for you. Look at this. This is going to hit you right in the nostalgia gut. If you're anything like me. The music is Living for the City Muzak version, originally Stevie Wonder, Autumn in New York, Kimiko Aito. Looks surreal. Look at that hair. I remember this. So many white people. Even the graffiti looks good. Can you imagine what this part of town looks like today? Oh, look at the cars! It's clean.
Autumn in New York, why does it seem so inviting? Autumn in New York, it spells the thrill of first nighting. Glittering crowds and simmering clouds in canyons of steel.
Rollerblading, man. I haven't seen someone out rollerblading in forever.
They're making me feel I'm autumn in New York. It brings the promise of new love. Autumn in New York is often mingled with
The cars are just like a punch in the gut. Give me 90s cars back. I grew up on 90s cars. Mr. Stu, you shut your whore mouth.
in New York.
The hair is wonderful. It's perfect.
It's good to live it again.
Everyone needs to have 90s hair.
It's good to live it again.
If only somebody had taken that gay poem off back then. Oh. 1993, captured in early HD. Oh, that was fun. Okay, Eagle-Ed Martin. Eagle-Ed Martin is an appreciator of fine Heritage America content. Look at that. From Mound Lore. Most Americans don't realize it, but many of our highways follow routes far older than the country itself. Originally corridors carved by geology, crafted by bison migrations, and turned into continental road systems, by indigenous nations. Forgive the I mean, indigenous is a real word. It's been obviously abused, but I mean, it is a real word. Let's peel back the asphalt. Auto Trails map here. Bison weren't just wandering the continent, they were reading it. They followed the logic of the land. Ridge spines avoiding deep valleys, wind gaps cut by ancient rivers, river terraces high enough to stay dry, limestone benches that drain clean, the shallowest possible fords, and salt and mineral lines that shaped migration. Then they pounded that wisdom into the ground. Quiet, Justine. They pounded that wisdom into the ground for thousands of years, turning soft forest into hardened corridors that could handle tens of thousands of animals in motion. The first paths. These are all America's cattle trails here on this map, which I assume the cattle trails followed along on the some of the old bison trails. Indigenous nations recognized these corridors for what they were, pre-built highways laid down by the land itself. The Shawnee, the Cherokee, the Miami, I've never heard of this one before, Haudenosaunee, Chickasaw, Catawba, Yuchi, Delaware, and dozens more expanded these traces into continental road systems. They widened choke points, cut back brush, marked turns with bent trees, carved steps into steep bluffs, built causeways over seasonal wetlands, created rest sites, shrines, trading stations, and war camps along the routes. This wasn't primitive travel. A buffalo trace became a diplomatic road, then a trade artery, then a military highway. Now, I would say, just kind of going off of intuition here, this is much more like they did the early steps with this, and then the much more lasting, sustainable stuff was built on top of the existing, really rudimentary infrastructure. Han Purchase says they did have a pre-Columbian civilization, not to rival ours, but they had one. We showed up in a post-plague apocalyptic ruin. The judgment of God due to their demon worship, no doubt. Yeah, absolutely. So this is the trail system of the southeastern United States in the early colonial period. This map is dated to 1923 or 1823? I think it's 1923. Some of the oldest and most important roads in America began this way. The Warrior's Path, the Appalachian Superhighway, the Great Indian Warpath stretching from New York to Alabama, the Buffalo Trace in Indiana, a 200-mile corridor carved by herds, used by tribes, later by colonists, Nemacolin's Path turned into Braddock's Road, then into US 40, the Natchez Trace, one of the most ancient human corridors on the continent, the Great Trail and Scioto Trail, the heartline between the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes. These were much more than trails. Here's some of the maps for some of these. This would be Indian villages, paths, ponds, and places in Kings County. This is, I assume, Ohio. Map showing, Indian trails and towns in Ohio. Yeah, it'd be a really interesting project to go overlay all of these with the existing highway system. City of Detroit. And then this is Indian trails in the villages of Chicago. Let me, I'm trying to, where is this here? Close out. Okay. When settlers came, they didn't build new routes. They followed what already worked. Daniel Boone opened the Wilderness Road only because animals and indigenous nations had already cut Cumberland Gap into a masterpiece of natural engineering. Surveyors mapping the Midwest weren't discovering anything. They were copying a blueprint the land had already authored. Early American cities sprouted at ancient nodes, which is kind of like there's the subtext of this is like, the brilliance of the indigenous peoples being able to read the land or whatever. But these are there's also, you could just say these are natural convergence points, or they're this wasn't the absolute brilliance, the stunning brilliance of these primitive peoples. It was like they could kind of just see what was in front of them. Vincennes at the Wabash convergence of the Trace, Lexington at the intersection of multiple Bison Salt Lick routes, Nashville was founded where animal paths, indigenous routes, and river systems braided together. You could still see the signs. So here's the Lincoln Highway. And here is the National Old Trails Road. So you can see a lot of the parallels here overlaid on that, the Grand Canyon route. And here's the general map of transcontinental routes with principal connections. The Dominion of Canada. What do we got down here? Oh, look, the Gulf of America. Most of this is going to be too... Yeah, I can't read any of that. And then the U.S. highway system. There's not... I remember growing up and having, like, my grandpa and my uncles and stuff would love to just... They would just sit around and just study maps. They would just study them just for the fun of it. And then sometimes they would go out and they'd go on vacations to go explore the areas that they'd seen on the maps. But this was like an old man thing that you would just sit down and you would just read maps and just study them. And I guess the modern version of it is like, you know, using Google Earth to go explore a town or something like that. But there's the geography of the United States is one of the biggest reasons why it is such a land of such power. Then came the turning point. America paved the ghosts. Turnpikes, wagon roads, military roads, stage lines, and rail corridors were almost never created in empty space. They were built on inherited movement. Braddock's Road became US 40. Warrior's Path became the spine of I-81. Natchez Trace became a federal parkway. Buffalo Trace became US 150. Ancient Bison Salt routes became the street grids of Lexington and Frankfort. The Great Trail was the skeleton of Ohio's highways. Even the interstate system echoes the old logic. The same passes, the same saddles, the same valleys, the same river terraces, the same ancient decisions about where the land allows movement. We retrofitted a continent. So there's the U.S. highway system. Look at that. It just looks better, man. Looks clean. Imagine driving. I actually kind of remember this when driving on the highway was a lot sparser like this. You didn't have, it wasn't just an endless stream of vehicles and trucks and everything. So routes to be added to the National System of Interstate and Defense Highways, October 17, 1957. Part of the building the highway system. Thing is, bison weren't leading anything. They were obeying rules written millions of years before. The true architects were the last retreat of the Laurentide ice sheet, glacial meltwater carving out low valleys, ancient shorelines from post-ice age lakes, eroded limestone benches, buried river systems shifting underground, salt and mineral belts created by vanished seas, uplands shaped by Devonian bedrock, floodplains compacted over 10,000 years. Animals followed the geology. Indigenous nations followed the animals. America followed both. Our mobility is inherited. This is getting into Randall Carlson stuff. If you guys haven't gone down the Randall Carlson rabbit hole, you can get lost down that one for quite a while. Here's the you had the Laurentide ice sheet up here, and then you had the pass between the Laurentide ice sheet and the Cordilleran ice sheet up here. And this is the way that a lot of humans, pretty ancient humans, traversed this pass here between the two major ice sheets until they completely closed up. And then they have the theory of the comet impact that hit on top of this ice sheet that was like 2 miles thick, and there was a massive release of energy and meltwater that came down and totally carved out the western half of the United States and big parts of the Northeast as well, and down the eastern seaboard. So who knows what the western half of the United States used to look like, 12,000 years ago or something like that. Who knows what it was, maybe it wasn't this deeply scarred area that's a lot rockier. There was, could have had even more. We have this perspective of, you've got like all the agricultural, lush, green half of the country, and then you've got the more desolate, rocky, deserty half of the country. But it could have been that the western half of the country was just as lush and green as the eastern half. There was an extraordinary amount of, we're talking probably miles deep of surface level material and stuff that was just obliterated off the western half of the country. There's a graphic here you could go look at later. I'm not going to go through every single detail of it, but the way that surface melting begets more melting, glaciers thinning, meltwater fractures, and then warmer oceans eroding floating ice at its base, the way some of this meltwater stuff works. You can go read that graph later on if you want. Here's an example of this. So you can see this is probably Eastern Washington. It looks a lot like Eastern Washington, which I've gone out and hiked around in. Amy and I did a trip out there and hiked around in. Once you realize what you're looking at, that you're standing in like carved out river channels that are in some cases miles wide. It's pretty insane. The sheer scale of the floods that happen. But you can see the meltwater channels here that get carved into the earth. And then you've got the moraines, which is like the boulder fields, where all of that debris gets pushed down on massive flows of water, big chunks of ice floating on top of the water that have big boulders in them that get carried down and wash out in... and we're talking like flooding that went from Canada to Mexico. It was massive. Like imagine a single massive river that is miles deep and flows from Canada to Mexico, just obliterating everything in its path. That was essentially what happened something like 12 or 13,000 years ago. Yeah, massive flood, huh? And very interesting. Interesting to see evidence of a massive flood that covered the land. Last tweet in the thread here says, when you're driving down US 40 I-64, the Natchez Trace, when you're cutting across Kentucky or Indiana, when you're crossing a bridge at Louisville or following I-81 through the valley, you're not on a road, you're on a geological inheritance. From animal migration to indigenous superhighway to American pavement. A 4-part story pressed in the landscape so deeply that even asphalt couldn't erase it. America didn't build on a blank slate, it built on the oldest transportation network on the continent. One engineered by landforms, refined by nations, and forgotten by the country that paved it. Our roads are not modern, they're memory. Pretty cool picture of the country. All right. Speaking of American history, here are all the coins being circulated for America's 250th. So you've got the emerging Liberty dime, the Mayflower Compact dime, the Declaration of Independence quarter, the Revolutionary War quarter, the U.S. Constitution quarter. Look at that. Look at the frickin' jaw on George Washington, man. You've got the Gettysburg Address quarter, and then the 1776 to 2026 nickel. Scott Bessent scrapped the Biden-era designs and forced them to include the Founding Fathers. The subreddit r/coins, they are very upset about this. This is what the Biden-era ones were going to be. All suffragettes and civil rights. We shall overcome civil rights bullshit. And on on our coins, they say the 5 2026 quarter designs have been released, and they're radically different than what we've been seeing in the concept art for the last 2 years. Originally proposed themes: U.S. Constitution, Declaration of Independence, abolitionism, suffrage, and civil rights. The suffrage and civil rights quarters have been eliminated and replaced with Revolutionary War and Mayflower Compact quarters. Additionally, someone seems to have decided that the presidents needed to be featured more prominently, and now 4 of the coins have presidents on the obverse when I don't remember any in the concept art that was released. In fact, of the 10 sides shown, I think only the reverses featuring the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall are accurate to the concept art. This seems like a departure from the Ment's usual development system. Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent scrapped Biden-era coin designs intended to celebrate the 250th anniversary of America's founding after the Trump administration discovered they did not feature a single founding father, but instead emphasized diversity, equity, and inclusion themes. U.S. Treasurer Brandon Beach told Fox News Digital Thursday the new semi-quincentennial quarter designs will celebrate American history and the founding of our great nation, While the Biden administration and Secretary Yellen remained focused on DEI and critical race theory policies, the Trump administration is dedicated to fostering prosperity and patriotism. We have no doubt that these new designs will be wildly popular with the American people. Common Aristofag win. Thank you, Mr. Besant, you student of American history. Thank you for pissing off the libs in yet another way. The emerging Liberty dime reminds me of the silver dimes from the late 1700s and early to mid 1800s. That is a busty Liberty. Come on, goddess of liberty. Emerging Liberty dime most popular in replies for sure. I wonder why. We narrowly avoided Reddit coins. Reddit coins. The Harriet Tubman $20 redesign was never officially scrapped and is still slated for around 2030, though. That's got to change. Okay. Now, this is something to watch. The White House announced tonight that President Donald J. Trump's address to the nation tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern. He says, "My fellow Americans," all my Q-tards out there perked up when they saw a truce that started with "My fellow Americans." Those who know. I will be giving an address to the nation tomorrow night, live from the White House at 9 p.m. Eastern. I look forward to seeing you then. It has been a great year for our country, and the best is yet to come. Yes, Slutty Milk, my president is hosting the ASTROLAB tomorrow. Yeah, so here's the question. Are we getting a fireside chat? There's been a few different people who have connections to the administration. Tom Luongo is one of them. I've heard it from others saying, we need fireside chats. Fuck the media. Stop going through the media. Just give us fireside chats. So is we getting fireside chats? I guess we'll have to wait and find out. Fortunately for you guys, there is no ASTROLAB tomorrow evening, so the ASTROLAB is going to be hosted by the president. And we'll see what happens. We'll see. There's the possibility. Yeah, Mr. Sue, there's the possibility I may do a reaction stream afterwards, depending on what happens. We'll see. But I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that so you don't miss it. Here is one of the guys who is a potential new Fed chair, Kevin Hassett, said this.
Evidence is mixed, but the point is that we've got deficit going way down. So right now it's looking like the deficit for this year will be $600 billion lower than it was last year. That really helps lower inflation. We've got the trade deficit cut in half from last year. Mm-hmm. And so all these things are things that should continue to move us towards the Fed target of 2%.
So $600 billion down on the U.S. budget deficit this next year. Tom Luongo, where my Luongooners at? Luongo's in the chat. He said, but there's no way we could balance the budget. And this is just a start, folks. Most of the government is still running under Biden rules because of our insanely retarded Congress's inability to pass a freaking budget wholesale. Trump and Besant are right. When the investments begin paying dividends, the fiscal problems will begin solving themselves. And the Democrats are holding their noses and their breath to stop any end to the waste and fraud. No wonder their color is blue. Their brains don't work from hypoxia. Hey, Thomas Massey, I thought the one big beautiful bill was going to raise spending. Oh, you're still gish-galloping to the Epstein list in your Schrodinger's whistleblower parade. Yeah, remember when we were told that the one big beautiful bill passing, that this is just proof that Trump is just going to continue to destroy us financially? And yet here we are, the trade deficit cut in half, $600 billion taken off the budget deficit, and all the good stuff hasn't even begun to happen. And really, this is the stuff that... This is the really fundamental structural stuff that can beget all of the other things that you want. This means a massive wealth transfer is happening. And it's happening in a direction that will disproportionately benefit our guys and our guys' supporters. And the more that this happens, the more the average American is tangibly economically benefited from this, the more they want. The more MAGA they want. And that's what we need right now. We want the American people to want more MAGA and to demand that they're going to get more MAGA. And to put pressure on Congress to keep giving us more MAGA. If you're fed up with the GOP, you need to vote for them. But, shut up and listen. They don't want you to vote for them. They want to throw the election. They don't want to have to do anything. They're much happier being the controlled opposition loser party. So force them to win. That's what puts pressure on them. This idea of, we're just gonna sit it out and just stick it to them and make them lose. No, you don't lose by winning. And you don't win by losing. Force them to win. Put the ball in their court. Give them no alternative. We must win. Give the GOP supermajorities in the House and the Senate so that they have no other option. If the Trump agenda is not moving forward, it's abundantly clear and obvious that it's a GOP problem. Once you convert these seats to GOP seats, then you can start building more GOP infrastructure around them, which involves the employment and the consulting of our guys. This is how we win. Constantly pedal to the metal, steaming forward. If you're like, fucking GOP, they've betrayed us again, they're so useless, we can't get them to do anything, I'm just going to stay home. You're literally being a libertarian. I'm going to vote for the Libertarian Party because then I'll deprive the other parties of my vote, and then maybe they'll decide they want to reform themselves. If I don't vote for the GOP, they'll lose, and then maybe they'll decide they want to reform themselves. Do you hear yourselves? If they want to lose, don't let them. If they want to lose, this is obvious. They want to lose. So I'm going to collaborate with them on ensuring that they lose. You're literally going to work for them? The GOP is like, hey, don't vote for us because then we might have to do something. You're like, you stupid bastards, I'm not going to vote for you. Who's actually the beautiful loser? In a massive win, President Trump just secured the construction of a $7.4 billion critical minerals smelter and processing facility in the great state of Tennessee. It will create 547,000 tons per year of materials in America. The Department of War will hold some stake in the venture. The list includes gallium, germanium, indium, antimony, copper, silver, gold, and zinc. And from Secretary Lutnick, he says, big win for America. President Trump just secured a transformational critical minerals deal that strengthens our national security, rebuilds our industrial base, and ends our dependence on foreign supply chains. Today, we announced a major investment with Korea Zinc to build a state-of-the-art critical minerals smelter and processing facility in Tennessee that will produce 540,000 tons per year of essential minerals right here in America. These minerals power the technologies that matter most for our future: defense systems, semiconductors, AI, quantum computing, autos, data centers, and advanced manufacturing. Gallium, germanium, indium, antimony, copper, silver, gold, zinc, and more, all produced on American soil, supporting everything from fighter jets and satellites to chip fabs in the electric grid. And it doesn't stop there. Starting in 2026, the United States will have priority access to Korea Zinc's expanded global production, putting American security and manufacturing first. So not only is it being built here, domestically, for production domestically, Korea Zinc's expanded global production, the United States is going to get priority access to that, and the Department of War is going to have a stake in it. This is exactly how we win. Build here, secure our supply chains, create great jobs, and keep America the world's industrial and technological leader. Congratulations to President Trump on delivering another massive win for the United States. Thank you, Mr. President.
The only acceptable political theory is complete undying loyalty to Donald Trump.
Here's a great succinct list of Trump immigration wins. You know that thing that he's not paying any attention to? Not doing anything on? We got betrayed again, guys! We got betrayed! More than 2.5 million illegal aliens have been removed from the United States. In less than 1 year. More than 2.5 million illegal aliens removed from the country. For 7 straight months, 0 illegal aliens have been released into the country's interior. So if you're calculating this number, it's more than 2.5 million. It's also 2.5 million plus however many millions did not enter the country. So on net, we're probably something like, 7 or 8 million illegal aliens in a positive direction. Illegal border crossings have plummeted to the lowest level since 1970, with the U.S. on track to see net negative migration for the first time in at least 5 decades. I don't give a shit what you think the numbers ought to be. I'm telling you what the numbers are. For the first time in half a century, the U.S. is on track to see net negative migration. This was unthinkable months ago. If somebody had told you 18 months ago that the U.S. would see net negative migration in 2025, you would have said, not possible. There is no way. There is way too many institutional barriers. There's no way it would possibly happen. And if it did happen, it would only be because the Trump administration didn't accomplish anything else. Because they had to pour all of their political capital and all of their coordination infrastructure only into this. Have some context for where you are. Yeah, Slutty Milk, if you don't understand this, you're, what do they say, not in the game. You can't frame this any other way. The U.S. is on track to see net negative migration for the first time in at least 5 decades. Since at least the 70s. Highly successful immigration operations in so-called sanctuary cities across the country, including Los Angeles, Nashville, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Memphis, Charlotte, Boston, and Minneapolis, have removed tens of thousands of criminal illegal aliens from their streets. And that's the other thing. Of these millions that have left already and have been prevented from entering the country, they are disproportionately of the violent criminal type. The number of Americans dying from drugs has fallen every single month as the Trump administration stems the flow of deadly fentanyl trafficked across their border. More than 62,000 migrant children, many of whom were lost by the Biden administration, have been rescued from sex and labor trafficking. Shout out to Dan Bongino and Kash Patel for their extraordinary work toward that end, along with many others. So 62,000 migrant children who were lost have been found and rescued, and the number of Americans dying from drugs is going down every single month. The Lake and Riley Act was signed into law by President Trump, ensuring illegal aliens charged with violent crimes are detained. The Lake and Riley Act, which was passed by Congress, Trump hasn't been able to get Congress to do anything except for pass the Lake and Riley Act and the One Big Beautiful Bill, as well as confirming a ton of his nominees. Not enough, but a ton of them. He's already been able to lean on Congress as it is, but he's maxed that out, basically. Until all of these wins begin trickling down to the point where the average normie can experience it. You know what would make it go a lot faster? If the people who are the closest to this information were screaming it from the rooftops constantly to ensure that the normies would experience it sooner. What this also did is it ensured that the executive branch is now legally obligated to prosecute immigration crimes, to keep the border closed because of the Lake and Riley Act. Americans have seen historic employment growth, with 2.57 million native-born Americans gaining employment and 1.03 million foreign-born workers losing employment between January and September. This is the rapid response account explicitly hailing as a victory that over 1 million foreign-born workers lost their jobs between January and September. The number of new foreign students taking spots in higher education institutions has fallen by almost 1 in 5 over last year, 17%. Vetting of aliens working in the U.S. has been dramatically enhanced, so evil anti-American ideologies have no room to thrive in this country. Because it's not possible right now to do a full immigration moratorium. It literally is not it's not a political reality at this point. We can move in that direction, and it may become a reality, but it's not a reality right now. So what's the next best thing? Ensure that the people who are coming in are getting rigorously screened. Both to ensure they're not given over to violence, and also to ensure that they believe in the country and love the country and are not going to come be a drag on the country. Again, if it's a given that there are going to be immigrants, okay, well, what quality of immigrants are we going to have? And we can continue rowing in the direction of no immigrants. Also, added 20 more countries to the immigration ban and cut down on the inclusion of the chain migration, the inclusion of family members and stuff coming over along with them. Again, you guys have to be following an appeal to pragmatism. Let's see here. How do I do this open in window? Can I do that? Where is it? Yeah, here we go. Oh, that's right. I can't get this large enough for anybody to see on here. But here is the appeal to pragmatism Telegram channel. Just constantly, nonstop wins. New President Trump is expanding a previous 19-country travel ban to a whopping 39 countries, plus the Palestinian Authority, and appears to expand a block on legal immigration to now include spouses, children, and parents of U.S. citizens who were previously exempted. Look at this. It's just one after another. Can I get this to without going full screen? No. Yeah, go follow an appeal to pragmatism on Telegram. Beginning on day one, President Trump reversed dangerous Biden-era policies that invited millions of illegal aliens into our country, reinstating Remain in Mexico, resuming border wall construction, ending catch and release, dismantling the CBP-1 app, suspending the U.S. refugee admissions program, and terminating taxpayer-funded public benefits for illegals. I cannot wrap my mind how a good faith, it's not possible. It's just not possible anymore. It is not possible for a good faith person to say Trump has not done enough on immigration. That doesn't remove the fact that there needs to be more. But he's done more than I would have expected in 1 year. And if you expected more, you're not in the game. This is blowing out realistic expectations for what could have been done in 1 year, given the actual state of the immigration industry. The Trump administration declared deadly transnational gangs, including Tren de Aragua, MS-13, the Sinaloa Cartel, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, the United Cartels, the Gulf Cartel, the Northeast Cartel, and the Michoacan family as foreign terrorist organizations. And President Trump's landmark One Big Beautiful Bill makes the largest ever one-time investment in border security, allowing the Trump administration to fortify the extraordinary progress for decades to come. Not just doing it, but locking it in. Because here's the thing. Yes, Cheeky, most of the new ICE hires haven't even finished training yet. We haven't even seen, this is what they've accomplished without even having the what do you call it? When they're sending money back, taxing the money that they send back, what's the term for it? I don't know why my brain just blanked on it. Remittances. The remittance tax. The remittance tax hasn't even kicked in yet. There is so much more to come. It's not like they've blown their wad in year one, and now they just can't do anything more. No, year two, is going to be doubling and tripling down on what's already been done. We're at 1,255 287G programs now. That's local police and sheriff's departments cooperating, expanding detention facility. They just completed a deal for like some significant number of new jumbo jets. DHS is going to have its own fleet of jumbo jets specifically for deportations, so they're not having to charter all these flights. Which means it's going to be even easier and quicker to get them out. They're hiring a whole bunch of immigration judges. You can go apply to be an immigration judge. You can go apply to evaluate immigration cases. All of this stuff has only just begun. And yet they still had, on net, probably somewhere in the vicinity of like 6 or 7 million fewer illegals in the country on net compared to the trajectory. Massive, massive wins. To say that the administration, it's not even that people think like the administration hasn't done anything. It's like they think they haven't put forth a good faith effort or something, that they're just sort of like fiddling around the edges but not doing anything substantial. That's just simply a fact-free assertion. It's utterly absurd. It's not like this isn't a difference of opinion. This is you're wrong. You're simply wrong. And if you want to continue to be wrong and continue to assert that they aren't doing anything, or it's not going to make a difference, or they haven't made a major dent, or they haven't fundamentally altered the culture, you're just simply wrong. And being like, but they need to do more, is like, yeah, and it's raining outside right now. Obviously, they're saying they need to do more. All you're doing is just emoting. There's no positive value being generated by this. This may go down as one of the most powerful moments we've ever seen from Tom Homan. In under 3 minutes, Homan laid out in brutal clarity the difference between President Trump's border and what Americans lived through under Biden. There is not a more dyed-in-the-wool patriot on this planet than Tom Homan. Listen to the man.
You know, it's always an honor for me to be in the Oval Office with the greatest president of my lifetime. Yes, I said it, and I meant it.
Be more like Tom.
You know, I just got home last night. I toured the border in California, Arizona, and Texas. I did it in a four-wheel drive. I did it on the river. I did it from the air. Hundreds upon hundreds of miles of border. I didn't see one illegal alien. Not a single one. I've done this since 1984. I worked for 6 different presidents. No one's done more than President Trump. What he has done is gave us the most secure border in the history of this nation. Hard to stop. I went to hundreds of miles of border and didn't see one illegal alien. Incredible, considering the Biden administration, we had 10, 12,000 a day, most released in the United States. I'm proud to be with these patriots behind me. I'm already proud to be in the Oval Office of the President, but being with these heroes, I met some of these soldiers down on the border. And actually, a shout out to Fort Drum, New York. We got some 10th Mountain Division here, so Elise Stefanik, Claudia Tennant, we all love Fort Drum and the 10th Mountain. So look, this is a game changer. I want to make something perfectly clear, because we get attacked all the time being inhumane. The Biden administration is much more humane. It's a bunch of crap. Because there's been studies done that 31% of women that make that journey through the cartels get sexually assaulted. They get raped. And not just the women, children too. I've done numerous investigations in that. Sex trafficking was at historic highs with that open border. Fentanyl, historic highs that killed 250,000 Americans. No inspector terrorists that came across the border.
Think about the people who are alive or unraped today because of what the Trump administration has done. And then try to tell me that they haven't, what they've done doesn't matter. You are the raped.
record, historic. What happened under the Biden administration was the most inhumane thing I've seen in my lifetime. Now that the border is 96% decline, 96% less people are coming, how many women aren't being raped? How many children aren't dying making that journey? How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked into this country every day? How many known suspected terrorists aren't just walking across that border? President Trump and this administration is saving thousands of lives every month. Hard stop. That's just a stone cold fact. I'm just proud to be a part of this. I work with Steve Miller every day. Steve Miller is one of the most brilliant people I've met in my entire life.
Giga Jew.
President Trump brought together one hell of a team here, and the success proves. We all working together, one team, one fight. We're not done yet. We're going to keep going, and I guarantee you we're going to continue saving thousands and thousands of lives. Secure border means strong national security. Secure border saves lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
One of my favorite Tom Homan facts is he has some kind of like mastiff or something like that he named Hulk Homan. The man is... I would lay down my life for Tom Homan. Reminder, just emblazon this on the insides of your eyelids, or I guess the insides of your ear holes.
The only acceptable political theory is complete undying loyalty to Donald Trump. The only acceptable political theory is complete undying loyalty to Donald Trump. The only acceptable political theory is complete undying loyalty to Donald Trump. The only acceptable political theory is complete undying loyalty to Donald Trump.
Remember, this is the alternative. This fucking creepy little gremlin. When you say, Rabbi Trump, he's betrayed us, he's abandoned us, he deserves to lose, he's some cringe old boomer, he's owned by Israel. What you are saying is, this guy should be determining American public policy. That's what you're saying. There is no difference between those statements. That was Robert Reich, member of Clinton's cabinet. The dude is like 4'3", with these big gangly arms, collapsed, caved-in chest, literally a gremlin. He would have been involved in the creation of public policy under Kamala Harris. He would be involved in the creation of public policy under any other president. Any other option. Fucking brat Summer. There's a... So the recent shooting, there's a lot of people saying, as I said was going to happen. Did I not say this? More people are going to die, and there is no way around it. It is unavoidable. We have crossed that line. And people are going to attribute this. They're going to say, that blood's on Donald Trump's hands. Because he didn't, arrest all of the Democrats on September 11th. And these people are going to... I said that that is going to happen, and that these people are going to be out of their minds. This is absurd. Absurd! You have no clue the state of the military. You want that military deployed to start arresting people for their party affiliation? You think that this isn't going to backfire somehow? You think that this is actually a reasonable way to pursue and utilize political power in 2025 America? You don't know what time it is. There is a whole lot more that has to be done before that even becomes viable. We need to get to the point where that can become viable. And we don't get to that point by bailing on the one single guy in our entire lives who has ever done anything for us. Every single win, every single sniff of a win we have ever had has been a direct consequence of Donald Trump. There is no other game in town. And if you're trying to create another game in town to his detriment, you're an enemy. You're a traitor. You ought to be denaturalized. We're in a war. We have a general. He has dedicated his entire life, the rest of his life, to this cause. We have no alternatives. This is the way forward. The way forward is behind Donald Trump and his designated successor. Any deviation from that trajectory is wrong. A couple of guys here. I like both of them. It's going to be unavoidable. You're going to see one of them, and I don't want to air out guys that I like directly, personally. One of them here is Revenant, and I guess I've said stuff about him on the show here before, so be it. He says, Sam Hyde was right. The first 2 weeks after Charlie's murder were go time and nothing serious was done. I love Sam Hyde. I think Sam Hyde is a patriot. I also think Sam Hyde's understanding of the political dynamics here is limited. He's brilliant. He's a patriot. He's also a comedian. He has very incisive commentary. But when it comes to actually assessing the political landscape and evaluating the viability of different political strategies, that's not his forte. When he said the Trump administration needs to take radical, drastic action after Charlie Kirk, which is something like, just like starting to round up anybody associated with communism or something like that, or arresting Democrats, or deploying the military into the universities and arresting the professors, or whatever. That would have been a total non-starter. That's the sort of thing that, if you actually understand the implications of that, that's the sort of thing that proposing it is kind of Fed behavior. If you're trying to induce the Trump administration into those sorts of actions, you're trying to get him impeached. You're offering red meat to his opposition that they are desperate for. They have very little to cling to right now. But if he was to start doing things along those lines, you're giving every institution imaginable the perfect opportunity to flip on him. He needs to maintain the institutional buy-in to what he's doing, which means he has to throw them bones. He has to manage a coalition, which means he can't just do 100% of what one aspect of that coalition wants, to the detriment of all the others. That's politically self-defeating. But if he had this, and if this was the case, and if that was the way it would be, yeah, those are all ifs, that's great, that's fine. Those are not the case. We are not in a political climate where something like that is going to fly. He still has to win elections. He still has a Congress that, for the right thing, would gladly impeach him and thoroughly hamstring him, and prevent everything else that he's done from really taking root. Kofafianon has some good thoughts here. He said, the problem is simply that anyone working in federal law enforcement who survived the Bush, Obama, and Biden administrations is at least left sympathetic. There's no enforcement arm to actually do anything after Trump declares Antifa a domestic terror organization. What this is the first steps in a pressure campaign to lay down the groundwork, to work it through the courts. to begin purging all these different agencies of these subversives and traitors. He can't just straight up purge them because he will generate too much institutional resistance. He has to get institutional buy-in on a continuing basis. And the more that they're bought in, the more they must be bought in. But you're kidding yourself if you think that they aren't eager for any single opportunity to jump ship at any point. And Trump doing something that's too far beyond the pale for too substantial of a segment of the population would be exactly the thing that they would want, to jump ship and just grind everything to a halt now. These are political realities that have to be managed, that have to be dealt with. It's not a simple or quick process to start out with a loyal core to investigate and bring on others to entirely reshape federal law enforcement from what it is now, which is simply another tentacle of the thing that has Antifa as a different tentacle. That's what you're demanding. You're demanding that he snap his fingers and fully reform, rehabilitate federal law enforcement to suddenly be a bunch of based patriots that just do what they're told. It's just not going to happen. Looking through some of the replies here. Yeah, this guy. There's plenty of enforcement arm options outside the FBI. Gofefianon. Oh yeah, like what? Quickest and easiest way, suspend habeas corpus. There's some more extreme options like raising a militia and deputizing them with marshals. Yeah, because that's going to fly politically. If Trump suspends habeas corpus, deploys the military into every street, or just says like, posts out a true social, hey guys, I'm raising a militia. Any of you patriots want to come arrest communists, show up at Washington, D.C. at noon on Monday. We're going to deputize you and send you out to go arrest communists. This is fucking Fantasyland shit. Yeah, Trust Plan Star, just use the Jewish space laser on them. This other guy says, that's why they all need to be fired. The good ones would reapply, pass the lie detector test, ace the anti-lib struggle sessions, and be effective. Confefianon says, the people who are officially qualified to perform polygraph exams are not our friends. You're saying Trump needs to fire 100% of federal law enforcement. Really? That's your proposal. That's your policy proposal. Hey, Trump, just announce that you're firing 100% of federal law enforcement. You're currently engaged in like a massive knockdown, drag-out fight through all of the courts just to actually get like EPA officials fired. But yeah, just fire all of federal law enforcement and invite them to reapply. The good ones would reapply. The bad ones wouldn't. They would just be like, oh man, I got fired. I guess I'll just like post on the internet and be really angry or something. Another guy, this is just trust the plan cope. He's the fucking president that came in with one of the most overwhelming mandates in America's history. He accomplished nothing in response to Charlie being murdered. Nothing at all. When Democrats are in power, they find little to no issue in exercising it, doing everything they can to destroy the right. He has about 10 months left of actual power. Tick-tock. Kofefianon. Winning elections means the bureaucracy starts taking your orders. You have a child's view of the world and have zero idea what's actually happening. The way to solve this is to demote all current DOJ personnel and hire new personnel, similar to what he did with ICE, using the Obama playbook in reverse. Would take a year or two and cost some money, but it's the only way to solve the issue under the current rules. Yeah. I mean, again, demote all current DOJ personnel. Right, like, he can't get his district attorneys established to prosecute any of these things. Yeah, I'm not screen sharing on purpose. He can't get his district attorneys appointed to actually prosecute any of this shit. But yeah, he could just demote all current DOJ personnel. Sure, let's go with that. Just demote all current DOJ personnel and hire new ones. And that's going to take a year or two. Okay, so what are we going to do in the interim? So we're talking like end of 2026, end of 2027, somewhere in there. What are we going to do for the rest of the time? To even get to the point where he could demote all DOJ personnel, even if that was a viable strategy. To get to that point would require a tremendous amount of other wins, and it would require his mandate to not only maintain, but grow, which means the American population is univocally behind him, giving him even larger majorities, campaigning for him, aggressively demanding that his agenda, and his agenda alone, be the sole governing philosophy of the American government. That's how you get to the point where he can fire all FBI agents and demote all DOJ personnel. And even that's probably not enough. Do you guys have any concept of what we're up against? All this pissing and moaning and bedwetting and being a panican helps no one. You guys don't get it. I guess I'm the retard for assuming Trump used term 1 for experience and had a plan for term 2. Oh yeah, he clearly didn't have a plan. He's clearly just like from the moment that he took office, he's just been kind of firing from the hip and kind of hoping stuff works out. Clearly wasn't any sort of plan or anything like that. I'm sure Kash Patel and Dan Bongino will take care of it. Perfect guys to take down this institutional rot. Great picks, Mr. President. Well, you know, funny that you mentioned that. After an intense investigation, the Department of Justice, working with our FBI, prevented what would have been a massive and horrific terror plot in the Central District of California, Orange County, and Los Angeles. The Turtle Island Liberation Front, the TILFs, a far-left, pro-Palestine, anti-government, and anti-capitalist group, was preparing to conduct a series of bombings against multiple targets in California, beginning on New Year's Eve. The group also planned to target ICE agents and vehicles. This was an incredible effort by our U.S. Attorney's offices, shout out to Bill Asaley, the U.S. Attorney in Southern California, and the FBI to ensure Americans can live in peace. And will continue to pursue these terror groups and bring them to justice. Stephen Miller says, following the issuance of NSPM 7, that's National Security Priority Memorandum 7, vast government resources have been unleashed to find and dismantle the violent fifth column of domestic terrorists clandestinely operating inside the United States. It's not happening fast enough! Yes, but it's happening. See, that's the difference. Before it wasn't happening. Now we've moved to it's happening, and it needs to happen more. So how do we get it to happen more? Do we get it to happen more by declaring Trump as a traitor and he's abandoned us and we all need to run to the hills and bend over and fire diarrhea at the sun? Is that how we get more? Or does that just demoralize everyone and make all the low info normies just be like, oh, I guess nothing's going to happen and we just got to wait for the hordes of filth to overrun us? Yes, Lady Milk, it's happening as fast as is possible. To get more happening, aggressively promote Trump's agenda. It's already happening. You don't need to make it happen. You need to make it happen more. The way you make it happening more is by supporting the people who are doing it. Malmsburyman is a patriot. He says, I will defend everything President Trump says and everything he does, without question. I am one of the supporters he talked about when he said he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and still not lose us. If you don't understand that, then you have no idea how bad things were before he came down that escalator and how much worse they would be now if he hadn't risked everything for us. And I'm not just saying this to his enemies on the left. I'm also saying this to those ostensibly on our side who have become consumed with this idea that nothing is happening or that the president's public commentary on social media doesn't matter. He literally memed himself into the presidency by posting. Well, nevertheless. And as president, he has taken countless actions that have benefited us that no other viable contender for the presidency would have or could have done. And it's no exaggeration to say that on mass migration, the defining issue of our time, he is saving this country. Those of you who are doom posting from the right have cut yourselves off from President Trump, the only hope for reform this country has. And in doing so, you have made yourselves nothing. You are nothing. The doom posters are the ones Stephen Miller was talking about. You are nothing. You have nothing. You build nothing. You create nothing. No soup for you. The best you can do for yourselves and for everyone here is to admit you are nothing and disappear. Josh Ham, Patriot sighting, trust the Trump. Remember when Trump tweeted that he hated Taylor Swift? I remember when people said that he lost the election because he tweeted that he hated Taylor Swift. Trump, it's been all over for Trump so many times. Probably good to just double down the next time. Because it's going to happen next time. Find yourself a woman who looks at you the way this dude looks at Trump. So true. This is just... so many people are not in the game. He followed up with this. Touched a nerve with this one. Because they can only think in terms of scripted narratives, a lot of leftists still believe they'll get that walls are closing in moment with Trump where his supporters desert him. And not just leftists. A bunch of these so-called rightists. Based right-wingers. You know how based they are because they constantly remind you that they know about the Jews. Or the blacks. Or the women. They're totally based on all the most important questions. And even they think, the walls are closing in. Trump's done it this time. He screwed the pooch. He's not going to make it. He's done for. Every single person who has bet on Trump is done for has had their own shit rubbed in their face. So if you're talking to me about how Trump is done for, it's all over, he's been co-opted, he's been controlled, he's been neutered, he's never going to accomplish anything again, you're just telling me that you love to have your own shit rubbed on your face. And you know what? Have fun with that. They're also not used to being able to stake out extreme positions and then watch Republicans inch toward them for the sake of compromise. They can't imagine being in the opposite position, where we no longer believe in compromise, so either they have to compromise or face the consequences of becoming implacable foes. And this from, I don't even know how to pronounce that, NecroDVNA, Nekrodvna. Fantastic tweet. Shout out to Josh Ham for putting this one on my radar. One thing almost utterly lost to time is the crystal truth that being loyal gives you power. Being loyal gives you power. They imagine it makes you a servant, a slave, but in fact, it makes you part of the king. To be atomized is to be weak. And this is where you see all of the people, I'm not going to be loyal to a politician. He's just a man. He's just a boomer. He's just a real estate developer from Queens. He's nothing special. He has his daughter converted to Judaism. I'm so much better. You're a fucking libertarian, man. You're saying different words, but you have the same attitude. No, I'm too good for that. I'm not going to be loyal. You're loyal to a politician? Oh, if only you were like me. The one who stands alone. You're a lib. You're just trapped in the lib frame. You've dedicated your life to seething and coping and hating libs, and you are a lib. Yeah, I stand alone. Nice. Now face the wall. When you are loyal to the king, you become part of the king. This is a deep truth. This is true on levels. When you are loyal, faithful, and true to the king, you derive power from the king. Being loyal gives you power. Okay, so this is an article that's been stirring up a lot of thoughts. This is the How We Lost a Generation of DEI, The Lost Generation by Jacob Savage. Alaric the Barbarian said this is the most important article of the year. Highlights below, but you should really read it in full. I'm not going to read it in full here because it is long. But beginning in 2014, Prestige Industries decided they urgently needed to diversify. They didn't purge established boomers. Instead, they did everything possible to avoid hiring white millennial men. This is the story of a generation derailed by DEI. The article traces the systematic exclusion of young white men from media and high-status careers. This is from the end, but it's one of the boldest elements. We ruined basically everything just to spite white men. That's the only driving ethos. Quoting from the article, it's tempting to wave it all away as secular decline. White men abandoning fields that were losing status or economic value. But the timing doesn't line up. The sharpest declines in opportunity for younger white men didn't happen during the rolling crises of the past few years. They were baked in during the mid-2010s when new media was expanding coverage, universities were growing, and Hollywood was at peak TV. Which raises some uncomfortable questions. Is the media more trusted now than a decade ago? Is Hollywood making better films and television? Is academia more respected? Have these institutions become stronger since they systematically excluded an entire cohort? Or did abandoning meritocracy accelerate their decline? The piece starts off with a brief history of DEI. 2010 was the pivot, America's cultural revolution against white guys. It was a defined historical moment, not just some cultural miasma that grew over time. Quoting again from the article, the doors seemed to close everywhere and all at once. In 2011, the year I moved to Los Angeles, white men were 48% of lower-level TV writers. By 2024, they accounted for just 11.9%. The Atlantic's editorial staff went from 53% male and 89% white in 2013 to 36% male and 66% white in 2024. White men fell from 39% of tenure-track positions in the humanities at Harvard in 2014 to 18% in 2023. In retrospect, 2014 was the hinge, the year DEI became institutionalized across American life. And Alaric has an article here as well, The Gender War and Its Consequences. TLDR, we all got one-shotted by an Obama State Department psyop. 2020 was a second, even more drastic pivot. All of the sloganeering from major media companies was serious rhetoric and reflected in their hiring policies. The few white men allowed through after 2014 were fully shut out in 2020. From the article, in the aftermath of George Floyd's death, newsrooms tripped over themselves to stage a reckoning. The New York Times solemnly promised sweeping reforms on top of the sweeping reforms it had already promised. The Washington Post declared it would become the most diverse and inclusive newsroom in the country. CNN pledged a sustained commitment to race coverage, while Bon Appetit confessed that, quote, our mastheads have been far too white for far too long, and that the magazine had, quote, tokenized many BIPOC staffers and contributors. NPR went further still, declaring that diversity was nothing less than its North Star. These weren't empty slogans either. In 2021, new hires at Condé Nast were just 25% male and 49% white. At the California Times, parent company of the Los Angeles Times and the San Diego Union Tribune, they were just 39% male and 31% white. That year, ProPublica hired 66% women and 58% people of color. At NPR, 78% of new hires were people of color. The entire internet culture of the media industry has changed practically overnight. Female cultural primacy, hat tip Kofafianon, extreme racial pressure, a complete overturn of what stories would be reported and who would report them. The fact that this is the reason I think he's highlighting the media here is because the media is the thing at that time, especially the media was the thing that formed everybody else's picture of the world. So by subverting and taking over the media and subordinating it to this mission, to this agenda, you've reframed everything for everyone else. Now, companies that didn't cooperate or comply with this, they would be subjected to major media attacks, which would amp up the pressure, which would affect their stock price, which would get which would be a pretext for the government breathing down their necks. Getting into the media made a big difference. The demographic shift reshaped not only who told the stories, but which stories got told. For a typical job, we'd get a couple hundred applications, probably at least 80 from white guys, the hiring editor recalled. It was a given that we weren't going to hire the best position. It was the best person. It was jarring how we would talk about excluding white guys. The population hadn't changed much. White men were still nearly half the applicants, but they were now filling closer to 10% of open positions. Suddenly, in Andrew's newsroom, everything was driven by identity. There were endless diversity trainings, a racial climate assessment. At one point, reporters were told they had to catalog in minute detail the identity characteristics of all their sources. Andrew had been instrumental in forming the union at his company and objected when negotiations shifted from severance pay and parental leave to demands for racial quotas. They wanted to do like emergency hires of black people, he said.
The N-word.
When he questioned these new priorities, the response was swift. On a Zoom call, women would clap back at something I was saying, and other women would snap their fingers in the chat window, he recalled. It was this whole subcultural language being introduced wholesale. Desperate for advancement, he'd had the same job, the same title for nearly 6 years. Andrew looked elsewhere. I applied for positions at The Atlantic, Politico, CNN, The Washington Post. It's 3 different desks at The New York Times, he told me. But newsrooms were contracting, which only made the competition more intense. When scarcity sets in, you start to worry about these things a little bit more, he reflected. The entire piece is about this, but these are notable examples. DEI set its sights on entry-level positions, affecting the young and promising far more than the older and established. Older whites have never felt the same pressure, which is a big part of the disconnect. Again from the article. The irony was, where older white men remained in charge, especially where they remained in charge, there was almost no room to move up. If you hired a team of white guys around you, you were putting a target on your back, recalled the hiring editor. Because, if the older white guys are already in charge, maybe it's harder to get rid of them, well, you've already got your token whites. So you're not going to hire any new ones. So the older guys benefited from that. At the New York Times Magazine, one of the few prestige magazines with a public masthead, Jake Silverstein, a Gen X white man, serves as editor-in-chief, and Bill Wasik, another Gen X white man, serves as editorial director. But of 9 millennial senior editors and story editors below them, there's just one white guy, and he's been there since 2012, effectively grandfathered in. At the very bottom of the ladder, the picture is a little different. Since 2020, only 7.7% of the Los Angeles Times interns have been white men. Between 2018 and 2024, of the roughly 30 summer interns each year at the Washington Post, just 2 or 3 were white men. In 2025, coincident with certain political shifts, the Post's intern class had 7 white guys, numbers not seen since way back in 2014. In 2018, the New York Times replaced its summer internship with a year-long fellowship. Just 10% of the nearly 220 fellows have been white men. Other pipelines dried up as well. The alt-weeklies that gave misfit young men their start have shed them entirely. There are no white men on the editorial staff of the Seattle Stranger or on the staff of Indie Week. As late as 2017, there were 6 white men atop the masthead for the Portland Mercury. By 2024, there was just one, the boomer editor-in-chief. Yeah, okay, that was that. The entire cultural industry has been in a full court press against straight white American males for over a decade. The highest levels of strategy devoted just to excluding that demographic from the professional world, even down to metric hacking via Europeans. Among 16 tenured or tenure-track millennials, just one is a white man. Yale's history department, with 10 white male professors over the age of 70, provides a striking illustration of the generational divide in hiring. Since 2018, they've hired 4 older white men as full professors. But among 16 tenured or tenure-track millennials, just one is a white man. At 84, the Cold War historian John Gaddis isn't even the oldest in the department. The Yale history department at the time I arrived in 1997 was overwhelmingly white and male, if not yet millennial, he told me in an email. Some remedial action was long overdue. Well, not yet millennial. Yeah, because in 1997, that was like basically right at the end of the millennial generation, which means the oldest millennials were, 15 or so. So I'm sure they were not employed in the Yale history department. This remedial action could take many forms. Berkeley commissioned regression analyses to identify which quasi-legal strategies would produce the fewest number of white male job offers. At Dartmouth, the Mellon to Postdoc program provided 10 tenure-track positions for, quote, new hires with demonstrated commitment to addressing racial underrepresentation in their disciplines, end quote. None were white men. Cluster hiring, which began in the 90s as a way to expand interdisciplinary research, was transformed in the 2010s as a shortcut to achieve diversity goals. Entire groups of underrepresented candidates could now be hired at once, working around the often Byzantine tenure approval process. The white men who do get hired are often older and more established, or foreign. Several people I spoke with noticed that European white men don't seem to face these same barriers. The reason, one professor suggested, is that they exist slightly outside the American culture wars. Another is an administrative sleight of hand. Federal education statistics, IPEDS, classify foreign nationals outside racial categories. In other words, a white European on a work visa doesn't register as white in diversity metrics. Among new PhDs with definite academic employment plans, white temporary visa holders are nearly twice as likely as white U.S. citizens or permanent residents to secure tenure-track positions, 61% versus 33.1% in 2023. For a decade, it kept going faster and faster. Without any actual quotas to achieve, only the constant exhortation to do better, the diversity complex became self-radicalizing, a strange confluence of top-down and bottom-up pressure. No one ever said what the right number of white men would be, but it was always fewer than you currently had. No one ever said what the right number of white men would be, but it was always fewer than you currently had. 2 anecdotes on the mass cultural shift downstream of this, one in academia and one in the news. White and European and male and dead. All media and education has circled the wagons around this sentiment, supplanted by rabid race communism in newsrooms. Hanging over it all was an invisible curriculum. The political assumptions about what should and should not be studied. James recalled a fellow graduate student he met at Yale, a white man oblivious to the latest academic orthodoxies. He went on this long, passionate monologue about military history. He knew all sorts of details of Roman military history. He really wanted to study it. And I just thought, you are hopeless. There is no way anyone is going to hire you. He almost wasn't schooled properly. If he had been, without anyone ever needing to tell him, he would just drop all that about military history because he'd know that's white and European and male and dead. My patriotic American just wanted to study Roman military history. The demographic shift reshaped not only who told the stories, but which stories got told. After George Floyd's death, Andrew's colleague Lucas was assigned a piece about why you should never call the police. I remember having to interview one of these abolitionists for a story about if somebody breaks into your car or home, it's white supremacy to call the cops, even if you need it for an insurance report, Lucas told me. That always made me feel gross. I think back on that with a lot of regret. The refuges that young white men did find, crypto, podcasting, Substack. Note that these refuges became more low state the more white men went into them. Low status, sorry. These refuges became more low status the more white men went into them. The cultural surround is defined by finding anything white and male gross by default and has been since 2014. The boundaries shifted depending on the industry and the moment. A white woman might be favored in some contexts, disfavored in others. An Asian American man might face extra obstacles in tech or medicine, but if he wanted to be a screenwriter or an English professor, the system worked in his favor. But for younger white men, any professional success was fundamentally a problem for institutions to solve. Once again, for younger white men, any professional success was fundamentally a problem for institutions to solve. And solve it they did. Over the course of the 2010s, nearly every mechanism liberal America used to confer prestige was reweighted along identitarian lines. 7 white male Gen Xers won the MacArthur Genius Fellowship in 2013 alone, the same as the total number of white male millennials who've won since. In 2014, 2 white male millennials were National Book Award finalists, including one winner. That year, 9 white male American artists under 40 appeared at the Whitney Biennial. But of the 70 millennial writers nominated for National Book Awards in the decade that followed, just 3 were white men. The Big Four galleries represent 47 millennial artists. Just 3 are white men. At the 2024 Whitney Biennial, which featured 45 millennial artists, 0 were white American men. An aside, below is from Wikipedia, not Savage's article. Note also that as soon as white European male and dead thought found a home in alt media and online forums, the culture industry continued to chase it down and try to stamp it out completely. It was beyond systemic, a sort of jihad against whiteness and maleness in themselves. For example, Donna Zuckerberg launched Eidolon in 2015 and published Not All Dead White Men in 2018, specifically targeting the red pill and manosphere content on the classics. See also virulent hatred for podcast bros, crypto bros, masculinity influencers, etc. Total systemic attack, not just exclusion. A media economy based on rooting out heresy, aka being white and male. Millennial white men met the bad end of it as they began their professional lives. Gen Z grew up inundated with it in general culture. Older generations really cannot reckon with it. This is also why, when people say that the Trump administration's messaging like this, returning to pro-Christian, pro-white, pro-male, pro-masculinity, when they say that doesn't matter, that's like the autism speaking. You don't understand the dynamics that you're engaged with. It does matter. When they attack DEI in the universities, when they withhold federal funds because of DEI stuff, when they sideline 3/4 of the Civil Rights Division, when they get rid of disparate impact, when they begin proudly championing Christianness, whiteness, even the things that are just symbolic, they matter. Symbols matter. And there's only so much that a presidential administration can do. You can't expect them to just change everything themselves. They can reset the frame and they can drive in that direction, but it's going to require institutional buy-in. That institutional buy-in is going to happen to the degree that they are perceived as powerful and in control. So undermining their perceived power or control is a way of directly contributing to rolling back all of this. Attacking the Trump administration is effectively a pro-DEI, anti-white position. The DEI departments have mostly shut down or quietly rebranded. The mountains of reports and glossy PDFs have been quietly scrubbed as if to hide the evidence. What was the justification for gutting the American meritocracy? No one seems to know. As the Trump administration takes a chainsaw to the diversity, equity, and inclusion apparatus, there's a tendency to portray DEI as a series of well-meaning but ineffectual HR modules. Undoubtedly, there's been ham-fisted DEI programming that is intrusive or even alienating, explained Star Wars' name in the New Yorker. But for the most part, it is a relatively benign practice meant to increase diversity, while also sending a message that workplaces should be fair and open to everyone. Let me just read this. The fact that other groups and other eras have faced worse discrimination, That in the grand scheme of things, the disenfranchisement of white male millennials was relatively mild is not in itself an argument, especially when the entire liberal establishment insists that nothing actually happened, that the mild correction was in fact no correction at all, and that any white man harmed in the process was in fact mediocre. Because what they're really saying is, we weren't supposed to notice. Now, a response from Jeremy Carl, author of The Unprotected Class. Everybody from Milo to Abigail Shrier loved Jacob Savage's viral piece on the discrimination faced by millennial white men. But as someone who has written on this subject for years, I could only give it 2 cheers. In my article linked in the post below, I explain why. Why the lost generation is a lost opportunity. The problem with Jacob Savage's viral article on millennial whites. Jacob Savage's just released article in Compact, The Lost Generation, has generated a huge buzz online, with some calling it the article of the year, and well-known commentators such as Abigail Shrier calling it, quote, the single best long-form piece I have read in a very long time. At first blush, it's easy to see reasons for their enthusiasm. Savage writes compellingly and examines in exhaustive detail, and with many references to his personal story, the dispossession of and discrimination against young white men that has rapidly accelerated over much of the last decade or so. I'm going to play this real quick, and we'll come back to this. This is from Nick Freitas, and he's talking about Christian Heinz. We've quoted him on the show here a lot, and he's his co-host. This is The Masculinity Crisis and How to Solve It with Nick Freitas. This is what he says. Unmute.
My co-host, who's one of my best friends.
He says, I got in a fight with my co-host.
He's 31. And I was talking about masculinity, and I was very much going for the, hey, you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You got to push ahead. You got to do forward, be a man. And clicked off the camera. And he goes, I'm so sick of hearing that crap. And I said, what? He goes, I'm so sick of hearing it from you. And now I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Is life just so damn hard for you? Oh, I'm sorry. Where were you at 25? Because I was sitting behind a 50 cal machine gun in Iraq. You want to bitch to me about how tough life is? Let's talk about it. And he goes, you know what, Nick? You're right. You're right. You were over there fighting a war. And you know what? They loved you for it. They loved you. You were a man. You were a warrior. You had a beautiful wife waiting at home. You had kids that couldn't wait to see you again. And he goes, I don't pretend for 1 second I know what it's like to fight a war the way you did. But you don't get to pretend that you know what it's like to be told your entire life that every single instinct you applied on that battlefield, every sort of instinct that was rewarded by a wife and a child and a grateful nation. I don't know what any of that is. That's what I'm going through. And I had to apologize. Because I'm going to tell you right now, war sucks. But that sucks worse. I got in a fight with my coach.
At first blush, it's easy to see reasons for their enthusiasm. Savage writes compellingly and examines in exhaustive detail and with many references to his personal story the dispossession of and discrimination against young white men that has rapidly accelerated over much of the last decade or so. As someone who has spent a great deal of time during that same era writing and talking about the subject of anti-white racism and highlighting data and anecdotes similar to those the author has unearthed, most particularly in my book, The Unprotected Class, How Anti-White Racism is Tearing America Apart, you might expect me to be a huge proponent of the piece. But while there's much to recommend it, there are also large blind spots that impede the author's analysis. And the fact that this particular piece has so grabbed public attention despite its glaring flaws indicates that the right is still not having the sort of discussion on race that we need to have. First, let's give Savage his due. He has done his research, and the data he cites is striking. From prestige media to elite universities to Hollywood, there is compelling statistical and anecdotal evidence of severe discrimination against white men, in particular against millennial whites. But this is only part of the story. The author's biography is a compelling example of his generation's misfortune. At 41 years old, a Princeton grad who had his career blocked as a Hollywood writer by being in the wrong demographic at the wrong time, he, by his own admission, makes a living scalping tickets. Hardly the glamorous sort of job he might have expected with a top Ivy League degree in hand. Savage makes a compelling case that Gen X and boomer white men are the villains of the story, people who are able to still get jobs and get established before the door closed on our millennial brothers. there is some truth to this. When I attended Yale in the mid-90s, while anti-white discrimination was already in full swing, something Savage underplays, it had not become the overwhelming force that it would become in more recent years. Young white men absolutely faced discrimination 30 years ago, but not to such an extent that there were not opportunities available to us if we had the right skills and credentials. Excuse me. Nonetheless, throughout Savage's piece, there is a whiff of the old internet meme. I never thought leopards would eat my face, sobs woman who voted for the leopards eating people's faces party. Because even now, Savage seems to respect and to some extent even revere the very institutions that have spit on him and his white male millennial comrades. And his tendency to focus on the experience of himself and his friends means that he puts the spotlight solely on millennials. But as many others have said, and his own data show, Zoomers arguably have had it just as bad as or worse. His is the lament of the intellectual dark web, the so-called homeless liberals, people who at some level still believe in the elite system and refuse to give up that belief, even in the wake of overwhelming evidence that it has betrayed them. But it is far from clear that such a belief is either clear-headed or admirable. Savage and his subjects can be quite self-critical at times, but at others they seem to shrink back from acting on the logical conclusions of their observations. Savage, like his IDW contemporaries, seems content to fish in the Rubicon rather than cross it and travel to terrain that would mark him to the establishment not just as a critic, but as an enemy. Furthermore, his framing of this as something new shows a major blind spot with respect to the travails of earlier generations of white working-class men who had their blue-collar jobs shipped overseas and who were chased from their neighborhoods decades before, while the forerunners of the creative class whites, whose current plight he ably describes, did nothing to stop their dispossession. Indeed, they were often the authors of it. For these working-class whites, the tragedy started decades ago, not in 2014. Indeed, Savage's story, and this to me is its principal weakness, is not really so much about the plight of white men, but white establishment liberal men, something he implicitly acknowledges at a couple of different points in the piece. But for conservative white men, the gig was up far earlier than a decade ago. There were many reasons, for example, that I left my doctoral program at Stanford University in the late 2000s, many years before the alleged crisis that Savage describes. But arguably chief among them was that it became clear to me that even in my relatively less political field of study, as someone who is quite capable but not a certified genius, there was simply no place in academia for me that would not require me to fundamentally compromise my principles. Indeed, had my own intellect and courage been in greater supply, that was really something I could have determined before even applying to Stanford in the mid-2000s. I claim no special honor here. Many braver and higher integrity white men than I were drummed out of polite professional society years before I was because they stood up to the institutional left rather than, like the men that Savage profiles, sucked up to it. In contrast, the people Savage interviews are usually just as much part of the problem as part of the solution. One interviewee, Andrew, who worked as a journalist, commented that, quote, I had credibility as somebody who had come from a more left-leaning perspective, was well-sourced on the left, but was willing to give them a kick in the teeth every now and then, end quote. In other words, he would rock the boat a bit on occasion, but always from a safe insider's perspective. It was only when Andrew's employer began impeding my advancement that his broader concern was activated. Savage notes that even the few white men who somehow run the gauntlet and survive in the current elite cultural establishment are mostly distinguished by their ability to shout the left-wing anti-white party slogans even louder than their POC fellows. He quotes a Gen X reporter. I imagine one reason newsrooms have gotten more explicitly lefty is that you have white guys and white women adopting a kind of protective coloration, allyship mindset to get through the door, end quote. Yes, the old liberal white men who ran things at these elite institutions were loathsome, protecting their status and prerequisites while mouthing platitudes about diversity. But most of those few whites who make it in junior roles today are just as terrible. There's something probably to be said. This reminds me of Jim Goad's statement. I first read this. I think I read this in Michael Malice's book, The New Right, back in 2019, something like that, that all of the stereotypes that were associated with poor blacks, or were associated with blacks in general, after the Civil War, were wholly transplanted onto poor whites, and specifically Southern and or rural whites. So the liberal white men in the academic world are largely inheritors of the Yankee tradition and the old school Republican Party, whereas the Southerners and the blue collar guys, the Chuds, are much more inheritors of the traditions of the South and the West. Savage's piece, of course, wouldn't be complete without lots of commentary from cowardly white academics. Quote, "There are many stories we tell ourselves about race and gender, especially in academia. But the one thing everyone I spoke to seemed to agree on is it's best not to talk about it, at least not in public, at least not with your name attached," Savage writes. And the numbers he compiles are damning. Since 2018, just 6 out of 76, or 7.9%, of junior hires in the humanities at Yale went to white American men. Since 2022, Brown has had similar numbers. Just 3 of 45 new junior hires in humanities and social sciences since 2022 are white American men. And we see similar numbers at other schools. Savage quotes one bitter young man in the film industry. "You're crawling through broken glass and it's still not enough. I kind of just choose to ignore it out of self-preservation, because if I'm bitter or angry, then I'm even further away from what I want. Nobody wants the guy shaking his fist." End quote. Correct. As a long-time certified fist shaker, I can tell you that nobody in the establishment elite wants the guy shaking his fist. But for the last decade, at least, the world needed that guy. Not the guy who cowered in the corner like Savage's interviewees in hopes that he could still be welcomed into an elite that despised people like him. In a profession like academia, whose principal demand should be a relentless desire to tell the truth, none of the many academics Savage interviewed were brave enough to risk their careers to tell the truth about the anti-white racism they could see with their own eyes. Those of us who did are well aware of the price that was paid. A price that was higher because the silence of those men that Savage profiles who left us to face the hostile system alone. Savage ably documents how younger white males have also been frozen out of other elite programs, such as MacArthur Genius Fellowships, National Book Awards, and Whitney Biennials. But this is not a new revelation to anyone paying attention. For example, I was commenting on how the National Book Awards and other similar prizes had been radicalized and racialized and were punishing white men all the way back in 2017. And there are numerous others like Heather McDonald who raised similar alarms even earlier. Savage almost revels in the timidity and acquiescence of his elite aspirant subjects. Quote, "Over the past 2 years, I've spoken with dozens of white male millennials, excavating hopes and dreams, disappointments and resentments. To a man, they insisted on anonymity," he writes. But while I have strongly defended the rights of anons on the internet and elsewhere, the universal unwillingness to tell the truth under your own name, especially in prestige occupations that should most value it, is both an individual and a collective social failure. Yes, the American revolutionary leaders wrote many pamphlets anonymously. But ultimately, when it came time to pledge their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor, they did not shrink from doing so. Nor did they hide their real names from those who would persecute them. That's the spirit we should honor. Not the spirit of those who are afraid to speak up because they might lose their chances of joining the corrupt elite. Quote, "Most of the men I interviewed started out as liberals. Some still are," Savage informs us, with a sense that he is not the least bit horrified by this statement. But given the abject racial and sex discrimination they have suffered, why would any of these men subscribe to liberalism if they have any self-respect? Because the alternative for many of these aspiring elites, to have to acknowledge a sympathy and kinship with the hated red state Americans such as my Montana neighbors, who cling to their guns and religion, is even more loathsome to them than being treated as a second-class, at best, citizen by liberals. The Trump administration and the conservative movement desperately could use the talents of folks like Savage and those he profiles. But, as is typical of the IDW and their moderate allies, to actually suffer the indignity of joining the right in a political struggle against the left is a bridge too far for these men. One interviewee says, "What troubles me is that a lot of thriving white millennial men have had to follow the Josh Hawley, a conservative senator from Missouri who graduated from Stanford and Yale Law, path, where you have to leave liberal America. I don't want to do that. Liberal America is my home. But if everyone says this is not the place for you, what are you supposed to do?" I'll tell him what he should do. Be a freaking man. Stand up for himself. That's what he should do. He should tell the people who discriminated against him for his skin color and sex in no uncertain terms that they are not his people and that what they are doing is deeply immoral and wrong. And if that means getting nasty glares from some in his blue neighborhood when he walks to get a soy matcha latte, that's a price he has to pay. Sorry, I didn't make the rules. Savage says he isn't angry with the people who took opportunities that should have rightly been his, but a basic sense of self-respect demands that he should be angry, and he should turn that anger into something productive. He should turn that anger into fuel. There are many good things in Savage's article, and I always welcome it when anyone shines a fresh spotlight on the discrimination against white men that has been going on for years. And to the extent he opens up some eyes that are not already opened as to the reality of the discrimination that young white men are facing in 2025, I give a hearty 2 cheers for him. But neither Savage nor his piece are yet deserving of a third. The establishment that denied opportunities to Savage and his millennial and Gen Z white male cohort are not, as Savage seemingly implies, basically good people who unfortunately had the single moral or intellectual flaw that they happen to discriminate against white men. They are horrible people, people who are totally unworthy of controlling the commanding heights of our society. They are moral monsters, racist, sexist, and intellectual cowards. And they and the corrupt institutions that they have run for decades must be either reformed completely with their incumbent leadership ousted or else destroyed. Savage has done a real service by thoroughly documenting, with the latest data, just how detestably hostile to young white men our so-called elite institutions have become. But until he and the fellow white male moderates and IDW camp followers he profiles rid themselves of their deadly desire to make excuses for their abusers, they will unfortunately be of limited help in solving the problems Savage so ably outlines. Facts and data are wonderful things, but courage and conviction are more important still. And even his article's final sentences are timid questions rather than confident declarations. Quote, "What do I say when my boys ask about my old hopes and dreams? What do I tell them when they ask about theirs? If the trumpet gives an uncertain sound, who shall prepare himself to the battle?" Jeremy Carl needs to get confirmed. Jeremy Carl is a patriot. Now, a couple other things on this subject. First of all, I got a nice post here from Vittorio. The thing about calling DEI economic genocide is that it undersells it. Yes, young white men were systematically excluded from careers during their peak marriage years, but that's just first-order effects. Second order, marriage market collapse. Women date across and up. Men without careers become invisible to the women who would have married them and disappear. The eligible bachelor pool shrinks. Third order, fertility crisis. Fewer marriages, fewer children. But it's worse than just men not marrying or having families. The women who won the DEI lottery got careers instead of families. They delayed fertility until it was too late. DEI attacked family formation from both sides, excluded men from provider roles, and diverted women from their fertility window. Everyone lost. Fourth order, psychological. Young men couldn't even name what was happening to them. The same institutions that excluded them told them they were privileged, that complaining was proof of weakness. So they internalized failure as personal inadequacy, rather than systemic rigging, retreated into depression, video games, and porn. The symptoms we then pathologized as male failure. The system broke them on purpose and blamed them for being broken. Fifth order, institutional trust gone. Once you know positions are filled by demographics rather than competence, every credential becomes suspect, if not a priori worthless. Is your doctor qualified or a diversity hire? Your pilot? Your engineer? You can't prove any individual is incompetent, but you can't trust any individual is competent either. Medicine skepticism, academic failure, media skepticism, none of this emerged organically. It was manufactured by the DEI hire you can't be sure is qualified to treat you. Sixth order, reality became unspeakable. Noticing any of this was a fireable offense. Pointing out the obvious got you called a bigot, deplatformed, or fired. Pure totalitarian censorship, and the problem couldn't even be acknowledged. Until now, finally. Men knew they were being cheated but couldn't say it. Women sensed something was wrong with the men but couldn't identify it. Relationships poisoned by a dynamic neither party could name. Seventh order. Now we're down to seventh order effects. The feedback loop. Fewer eligible men means more women competing for a shrinking pool, more women losing the marriage market, more resentment, more men are trash, more support for DEI, fewer eligible men, and the system accelerates itself. And the worst part is that DEI was just the economic arm. The same people and institutions push the complete package, toxic masculinity, to pathologize male identity, the future is female as explicit zero-sum framing delusion, believe all women to weaponize trust against men are trash to normalize open contempt. A coordinated ideological assault on family formation. And it even had a business model. HR departments exploded. Millions of jobs invented to administer the regime. DEI consultants became a multi-billion-dollar industry. Politicians got voting blocks dependent on racial grievance. Established boomers kept their positions while their competition was eliminated. And this industry here, this industry didn't come from the federal government. The federal government rubber stamped it and picked up on it and utilized it. It emerged in the so-called private sector. So the administration has, you can't overlook and just kind of hand wave what the administration has done to fight back against DEI to the greatest extent that they can from within the federal government. But they're not going to be able to wholesale destroy it themselves. They can change some of the incentive structures, which is a big deal. And should be absolutely counted among the tremendous wins that we have gotten from the president in year one. But that's not something you can't say the federal government, that Trump has to be the one who solves the whole DEI problem. There are certain problems that the federal government is ultimately responsible for. But this started outside the federal government and was brought into it. So the federal government kicking it back out is an absolutely essential first step, and it has to be built on outside of the federal government. Established boomers kept their positions while their competition was eliminated. That's the generational aspect to it as well. Because there were certain people who promoted it for reasons other than just simply belief in the DEI regime. They had vested interests in it. The architects knew what they were doing. You don't accidentally build a system that specifically targets men during peak marriage years, tells them they deserve it, makes it unspeakable to complain, attacks their identity as toxic, promotes women into career tracks that burn their fertility, then acts confused when society collapses. If you wanted to suppress the fertility of a specific demographic, engineer the breakdown of trust between the sexes, and make it illegal to notice, the playbook would look exactly like this. DEI should be held responsible for the fertility crisis, the marriage collapse, the epidemic of male depression and suicide, the destruction of institutional trust, the atomization of society, and the manufactured war between men and women. But DEI was the weapon. The people who designed it, funded it, made it mandatory, enforced it through HR, fired anyone who resisted, called all opposition hate and racism, built careers and industries on its maintenance. They knew. And they're the ones who should be remembered as the architects of one of the worst crimes against humanity. I've seen people arguing for reparations, but that's impossible. Reparations from who, with whose money? I mean, I think reparations has to be something that's kind of rhetorical. This is another good point. Another order effect, the empowerment of women and minorities ripples through election cycles and produces immigration policies that exacerbate the issue. H-1B is flourishing in a period of historic low white employment. Yet another great thing being reversed by my president. Here's something else. There's so many different job opportunities being offered by this administration that our guys can go sign up for. Look at this. techforce.gov. What is techforce.gov, you ask? Well, look at this. This is a government website. That's the first thing I want to point out here. This is a government website. Tech for the American People, the U.S. Tech Force. First administration, we got a Space Force. Now we're getting a Tech Force. The U.S. Tech Force is recruiting an elite corps of engineers to build the next generation of government technology. Backed by the White House, Tech Force will tackle the most complex and large-scale civic and defense challenges of our era. From administering critical financial infrastructure at the Treasury Department to advancing cutting-edge programs at the Department of Defense and everything in between. Through a 2-year program, participants will work in teams reporting directly to agency leadership. In collaboration with leading technology companies, participants will receive technical training, engage with industry leaders, and work closely with senior managers from companies partnering with the Tech Force. Upon completing the program, engineers can seek employment with the partnering private sector companies for potential full-time roles, demonstrating the value of combining civil service with technical expertise. If you're highly skilled in the areas of software engineering, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, data analytics, or technical project management and want to build the future of American government technology, join the Tech Force today. Answer the call, build the future of American government tech in a 2-year White House-backed engineering corps with real missions from day one. And I've just got to say, at this point, anybody who's complaining about the Trump administration, you had better have applied for ICE or to be an immigration judge or for the Tech Force or for any of these other opportunities that they're pushing out to us. If you haven't applied for those and you're just sitting around just counter-signaling the administration, you're a fucking loser. Don't give me excuses. Take action. The Tech Force will be an elite group of approximately 1,000 technology specialists hired by agencies to accelerate AI implementation and solve the federal government's most critical technological challenges. Tech Force will primarily recruit early career technologists from traditional recruiting channels, along with experienced engineering managers from private sector partners, to serve 2-year employment terms in the federal government. Tech Force will include centralized organization and programming and serve as a recruiting platform post-employment. The key steps: initial application, technical assessment, potential interviews with agency leadership, and a background check. You can submit your interest via the application portal and make a USA Jobs profile. Once relevant Tech Force job openings are posted, you'll receive notifications with links you can use to apply. What skills are required? We're looking for expertise in software engineering, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, data analytics, or technical project management. Strong problem-solving abilities and a passion for public service are essential. Excuse me. Note what's missing here. Next one. Are specific educational credentials required to participate? A traditional degree is not required. The federal government is hiring early career technologists and saying explicitly you don't need a degree. Candidates should demonstrate strong technical skills through their work experience, projects, or certifications. Is there a minimum experience level required to apply? No fixed amount of work experience is required. Applicants must meet the minimum qualifications listed in each job announcement. What matters most is your ability to address critical government technology challenges. It is not a political appointment. Aiming to fill positions as soon as possible. They're going to fill positions on a rolling basis, so apply as soon as possible once application links are received. Positions are primarily based in D.C., though some roles may be available at agency locations across the country. Remote work options vary by agency and role. Expected compensation varies based on experience level at agency placement. Annual salaries are expected to be in the approximate range of $150,000 to $200,000. Benefits include health insurance, retirement plans, paid time off, and eligibility for performance-based awards. You don't need a degree. They're looking for early career technologists, and they're going to pay you $150,000 to $200,000 with full federal benefits. Patronage, yes. I know that there's lots of guys that the technologists are overrepresented among our guys. So if you're stuck in some sort of dead-end job, or you've been discriminated against, and you do not go apply for this, I don't care if you don't get it. If you don't go apply for it, we need to bring back stocks. You know the thing that they would put in the town square, where you'd get your head and your arms locked in it, and people would just walk by and just like throw tomatoes or eggs or, I don't know, dog shit or whatever at you? We need to bring those back. You're going to get put in the digital stocks. If you're qualified for something like this and you're bitching and whining and complaining and you don't go apply. Participants will work on high-impact technology initiatives including AI implementation, application development, data modernization, and digital service delivery across federal agencies. TechForce participants will be placed across various federal agencies, including the Departments of War, Treasury, State, Labor, Commerce, Energy, Health and Human Services, Interior, Housing and Urban Development, Transportation, Homeland Security, and Veterans Affairs, in addition to the Small Business Administration, IRS, Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, OPM, GSA, and others. The initial roster of private sector partners includes Adobe, Amazon Web Services, AMD, Anduril, Apple, Box, C3.ai, Coinbase, Databricks, Dell Technologies, DocuSign, Google Public Sector, IBM, Meta, Microsoft, NVIDIA, OpenAI, Oracle, Palantir, Salesforce, SAP, ServiceNow, Snowflake, Robinhood, Uber, Workday, XAI, and Zoom. This list will expand over time. How do the private sector companies partner with them? They can partner by providing technical training resources, mentorship programs, nominating employees to do stints of government service, and committing to consider TechForce alumni for employment after their government service. Additional benefits include professional development opportunities, networking with government and industry leaders, and a pathway to continued public service and private sector careers. Duration of the program. Standard commitment is a 2-year employment term with opportunities for extension based on agency needs and participant interest. After employment is completed, you can pursue employment with private sector partners, apply for continued federal service, or leverage your experience for other career opportunities. The duration of TechForce as a whole. TechForce is designed as an ongoing initiative to continuously bring top technical talent into government service. So this is not a one-time thing. Yeah, this is like Doge, but tech jobs. This is not a one-time thing. They're going to continue. And this is just one thing. This is the TechForce. There's going to be other employment things coming down the pike for the federal government. They are going to, whether they're directly hiring or subsidizing and incentivizing like workforce training programs and that sort of thing. I know for a fact that more of that stuff is coming down the pike in 2026. I think that was, the rest of this is kind of technical. TechForce will coordinate across all of government. It's distinct from other technology initiatives within the government, including the United States Doge service, which still exists, by the way. I know a bunch of guys got one-shotted by the breaking slop, but the United States Doge service still exists, and there is a Doge team in every agency that reports directly to Russ Vought. And then other programs managed by the GSA. These programs differ in their mandate structure, required skill sets, and ability to convert to the competitive service. So, here you go. Apply. Share your profile with the U.S. TechForce Network. Go fill it out. And if you get some experience with it, if you get communications from them or whatever, then do report back. Let us know how it goes. And the very last thing that I have for you guys today is this. Mike Rowe, one of our greatest patriots, getting a hat tip from another one of our greatest patriots, James Woods. Says Mike Rowe epitomizes common sense with every word. He so completely understands America at its best. Why aren't the guys like this in charge of our state governments? I did a show recently airing sometime in January, and I was just so impressed with him. He is a grassroots American hero. And this is a video from back in April.
We got a skills gap. It's wide. It's big. We got 7.2 million men who are not participating in the workforce, not looking for work. We got $1.7 trillion in student loans on the books. We got 7.6 million open positions that don't require a four-year degree. And yet, we keep lending money we don't have to kids who are never going to be able to pay it back to train them for jobs that don't exist anymore. If we want to close the skills gap, we got to make a more persuasive case for millions of good jobs that nobody knows about and nobody understands. These are six-figure jobs or opportunities that lead straight to a six-figure career. They're everywhere. And if we don't reinvigorate the trades, I'm afraid the president's best efforts to bring manufacturing back to these shores is going to run into a real roadblock. We need an enthused workforce, skilled for the jobs that are out there.
Yeah, well said. As I was telling you, I'm a railroad mechanic. I've been doing that for 25 years. I've been doing side work as an auto mechanic my entire life. I have 4 kids. We own a house. We've been able to live comfortably because of that one skill set of being able to do something mechanically.
And you're not the problem. You should be on a billboard. People should look at your life as an example of what can happen when you master a skill that's in demand and work your ass off. That's still for sale. It's still important. And we have to get in front of that message, and we have to reinvigorate the trades in a way that makes this generation of kids look at careers like the ones you had and go, yeah, damn Skippy, I'd do that.
And these aren't
Damn
the jobs that
Skippy.
are going to be replaced by AI. The plumbers, the electricians, the mechanics, they're not going to be replaced
Yeah, look at my spagigger here.
by AI. Yet all these things that people are trading their entire future for, they're all going to be replaced by AI.
You said it, not me, but something tells me your days working on the railroad could not have been done by a robot.
100%. Mike Rowe, I took up enough of your time. Thank you so much for giving me a chance to
Thanks
speak.
for doing what you do.
Thank you.
The guy's TikTok channel is the Philly Gonzo. Oh, that guy's a patriot too. Alec Lace. Father of 4, host of First Class Fatherhood, host of the Alec Lace Show. Look at these patriots. Patriots talking to patriots. I want to see, you know what? I know that we're only there's only a couple people removed from the ASTROLAB to the administration. And I got to say, if this isn't already underway, the Trump administration needs to be reaching out to Mike Rowe and coordinating as they're doing this big reindustrialization push and bringing back all these jobs, rapidly upscaling all these factories. When you do whatever your big, like FDR-inspired federal jobs program sort of thing, the Conservation Corps or whatever it is, Mike Rowe needs to be the face of that. Collaborate with Mike Rowe. I don't know who needs to hear this to get that idea up the chain. But you want to get all the young chuds, you want to get their attention, get them hyped up, get them ready to begin a noble, stable, renewed blue-collar career. Do it with Mike Rowe. That's you get that one for free. Mike Rowe, Secretary of the Chuddery. Yes. Yes. Our Chief Chud Secretary, Mike Rowe. All right, guys. There we go. We made it through. We made it through without too many interruptions. Thank you guys for turning in for this. Reminder, go over to Miranchuk now. Go become a channel member over there for $2 over on YouTube and watch the interview that the conversation, the final Friend or Fed that happened over there last night. Jay Dyer, Friend or Fed, with yours truly, Jay Dyer, and Posh Redneck. And also, let me give a shout out to this interview here. I'll throw this one in the links. This one, the YouTube channel is Ryan Field Spack. It's like they've got a podcast here, The Dad Ledger. And they sat down with Tom Luongo, and Tom was in rare form. He was cooking. This is a very, very good conversation. They talked about a lot of good stuff. It was a great chat. Very strongly recommend that one. So go to if you want the link for it, go to the King Pilled Substack or look in the description on the podcast. Go find that. Make sure you subscribe to the King Pilled Substack, kingpilled.substack.com. Join the King Pilled Discord, kingpilled.com. I'm thinking what I might do instead of doing a recap. Yes, this is what I'm going to do. Instead of doing a recap stream tomorrow of Trump's whatever big announcement Trump has, whether it is actually like, oh, fireside chat thing, or if whatever it is, I'm going to do a voice chat in the King Pilled Discord tomorrow night. So, Wednesday night, tomorrow, King Pill Discord, we'll voice chat after Trump's thing. And if it's something worth talking about, we'll talk about it there, or we'll just hang out and chat for a few hours. So if you'd like to be a part of that, go to kingpilled.com, sign up, join in for all that. All members of the Discord get access to the voice chats and can participate in them. So just go sign up, kingpilled.com. Great way to support the show. And you'll come hang out with a bunch of the Patriots who are here in the ASTROLAB live chat. As always, please do tip your streamer. You can do it during the stream or you can do it afterwards. The Streamlabs link is tips.kingpill.com. If you'd like to use a credit card or a debit card, you can use PayPal that way. Or you can go to Venmo or Cash App. Just look for King Pilled. And that is also a way to put money directly into my pocket so that I can pay for Christmas presents, pay for family bills, pay for rent, keep us going, put food on the family's table, and keep coming back here 5 times a week to deliver the ASTROLAB to you guys. So thank you guys for all the support. Appreciate the gifted subs from Gabe Johnson, the kicks sent in by Wigatine Maxer and Pale Morning Dude. Let's see, was there anything else here? Navy Kip resubscribed. Thank you, man. Modest Contemplations and Arthurian Candidate. And then to Justine and Creek Money, the alpha male with the big alpha male alert earlier. And Justine, thank you, all of you guys. Appreciate you. Love you much. And for those of you in the King Pill Discord, I will see you tomorrow evening. Otherwise, maybe I'll catch you on the timeline. And I'll see you back on Thursday night for another episode of the ASTROLAB. For now, I leave you with Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough.